Good morning. Thank you very much for your patience this morning. We had to wait to get a couple things, and we are still awaiting the BDR, but it is online for the members. I would like to call to order the joint meeting of the Senate and Assembly Committee on Jobs and Economy. Welcome to everyone joining us in the committee room today, in Carson City, in Las Vegas, and online. I am Senator Marilyn Dondero Loop, and I will be chairing the joint committee today. Will the committee secretary please call the roll?
Assembly members Anderson, Backus, Carter, Dickman, Hafen, Hansen, Howdigi, Mosca, O'Neill, Patchett, Watts, Yeager, Senator Cannizzaro, Senator Daley, Senator Neal, Senator Wynn, Senator Rogich, Senator Steinbeck, Senator Krasner, Assembly Member Monroe Marino.
I'm here.
And Chair Dondero Loop.
And I am here. Please mark those members present as they arrive or absent if they don't. Thank you very much. All right, before we move on to today's agenda, just the standard housekeeping. Please remember to silence your cell phones and your devices. And if you are going to speak, please make sure that you state and spell your name for the record and hand a card to the secretary if you have one. That helps us. Please limit your time when you speak to shorten this meeting up if we can. And lastly, there will be a public comment period at the end of today's meeting. Today we will be hearing Senate Bill 10, which revises provisions relating to real property. Before we begin the bill hearing, I'd like to note there are two conceptual amendments that the presenters will discuss, and a hard copy of these conceptual amendments have been provided to all the members at the dais and have also been posted online. That being said, I'm going to open the hearing on Senate Bill 10 and invite Senator Neal and Senator Hansen to the witness table. And please go ahead and begin when you are ready.
Good morning, Joint Committee on Jobs and Economy. I am Senator Dina Neal, and I will be co-presenting with Senator Hansen, and I will have him introduce himself, and then I will kind of give a short play-by-play of how we'll run this here.
Thank you. Ira Hansen from Senate District 14, and quite excited to finally get in front of you guys, and let's get this going. So thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. So, Madam Chair, the way that we're going to do this, I'm just going to give like a very high-level overview on how this public policy proposal is, why it was crafted and why it was brought before this body for the third time. And then Senator Hansen will get into statistics, and we will go from there. So, SB 10, because I'm losing my numbers, but I believe it's SB 10, was enacted because we have the goal to temporarily restrict investors from buying bulk amount of property while the housing crisis is going on in Nevada. And the central public purpose was to allow families to purchase homes without having to bid against investors. It was very, very important in 23 and in 2025 to actually try to control the corporate investment in Nevada, not because it was the sole solution to the housing crisis, but it was one of the important pieces to the puzzle that was going to mitigate what was going on. When I examined this issue, I started to look to determine, is this a substantial public purpose that the legislature could then engage in and then say, we have the power under our policing power to protect the public the same way that we have the power to protect the public and health and safety, that we could go in and infringe and impede upon the corporate investor to try to make sure that our families could have a place within the housing crisis. And that was the whole reason for bringing this legislation. I also want to deal with a I think, issue and topic and rumor that I think has been out there because this has been such a special session of all specialness. That, as I stated on the Senate floor, I am not horse trading for corporate investors for a vote on film. They are two separate activities. That is not an activity that I am said to my colleague right here, please do this so I can feel comfortable to vote on film. Like, we might as well just squash that and you can kill that rumor dead. So I have way more principles than that. And so I just want to put that to bed. And so with that, Madam Chair, I will allow my colleague, Ms. Senator Hansen, to put stats on, which is going to establish why this is a housing crisis in Nevada.
Thank you very much. And go ahead, please, Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's hard to know where to start. I want to do a little disclaimer too, because there's rumor that I have also been offered some deal on the film vote, and the answer is no, and I've been a no, and everybody knows I'm a no, and that's not going to change. So there's nothing they're going to do to me to make me switch on that. Just want to get that out there. Other thing I want to get out on a much lighter note, today, 48 years ago, November 19th, 1977, Assemblywoman Hansen and I had our first date. It was to the UNR-UNLV football game, and UNR won. So anyway, and we've kind of celebrated our anniversary ever since. So anyway, a little lighter note. And if there is concerns, and I'm serious about this because this has become a sensitive issue during the session, that there's a conflict of interest if she votes on this, I think we can all agree that she can say, she won't vote.
And I appreciate that from both of you. I've known both of you many, 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 many years. And I would say attacking anybody's integrity in this building has just taken a new low. It is disgusting and it is disrespectful. If we were going to be disingenuous, it would have happened a long, long time ago. And I have known both of you, and I respect both of you. And it's not about the party, it's about the person, and it's about our state. We are here to run our state. We are not here to be petty. So I appreciate both of you, and with that, we can go on to the bill.
Very good, and I agree completely. And we came in as freshmen together in 2010. The bill itself, okay, the overview of how did I get involved in this? I sat next to Senator Neal on the floor in the Senate in 2023, and she came to me and we started talking about this problem in Nevada that she thought was developing about corporations being essentially able to outbid regular people in purchasing residential homes. And at first I was, I'm a free market guy, so should the government get involved in these kind of things? And I was skeptical. And at that time, it was a little bit theoretical still at that point. How big of a problem was it? And I ended up supporting her bill. And I can't remember what happened to it, but bottom line in all that, and I don't want to, and this is important. I want this to be a bipartisan effort today. This is for the good of the citizens. It really is. And I don't want to, got blown up on the Senate floor this morning to my horror and surprise. And the weird thing about this session has been, this is the most bipartisan session I've ever been in. I've spent more time with my Democratic Senate colleagues than ever. I'm serious. And so it's been a very good thing. And I think for the good of the state, we need to focus on that. Now, 2023, 2025, I supported her bill. I still support the whole concept. I know, and I want to make this very clear, that the executive branch is also, because I had discussions directly with the governor himself on rent and all these things. He's very aware of it, and he's very much concerned too. Now, we had competing housing bills, and so things kind of got lost in the shuffle as one group tried to outpower the other group. And what I've been working on until it blew up this morning is to kind of put oil on troubled waters, get the best stuff from the governor's housing bill and Senator Neal's excellent bill, and kind of harmonize those a little bit so we can have a good bill. And honestly, and Senator Neal and I last night went over those together, and for the most part, we agreed on them. And a few minor changes on things, and we worked those things out. Unfortunately, because it is a little bit of an unusual crunch time, LCB's person had worked 23 hours, so we're still dealing a little bit with conceptual. Now, back to what I was requested to deal with. How big of a problem is this? Right now in Clark County, about 15, I'm rounding off the numbers a little bit, but about 15% of all the residential housing units are owned by corporations now. In the year 2024, 1 out of 4, 25% of the houses were purchased by corporations. That has gotten worse. Now, what is even more, and this isn't, I don't have stats on it, but everybody I think is aware of this. There are a lot of young people that are being priced out of the market. And when you have, if you're selling a house and you have a buyer that offers cash, it's only naturally going to take it. And they are literally using cash. Now, who are these people? They're hedge funds, in my opinion, multinational corporations. And where are these dollars coming from? This is coming from, in my opinion, primarily surplus trade dollars with China. I don't want to get in the weeds in that, but when you're dealing with a company like BlackRock, it has $13 trillion in assets. Trillion. Their subsidiary is Blackstone, and then there's all sorts of smaller ones that have entered into the housing markets in Nevada. And what is the job of a hedge fund? They are liquid assets, right? That's cash. Their job is to convert those cash into tangible assets that produce a return on investment for these people. They've already used up they bought all the government securities they can buy. They buy on the gold, and now they've entered into, in the last few years, into the residential housing market, and they have inflated those prices dramatically, and they've squeezed the smaller person out from being able to compete in those markets. And then, to rub salt in the wound, those people that are unable to purchase these homes are forced to pay exorbitant rents for those same houses. So our goal here is to convert renters into homeowners. So instead of paying rent, they're building equity in their properties. And I think everybody thinks that's a good idea. There is no opposition to the policy. So why do we have to do this? Because in this case, the marketplace is not working. You cannot allow giant hedge funds, multinational corporations to enter into a marketplace and dominate it to the degree it has. 1 out of 4 houses have been sold in just the last year. And the trend is not going down. The home ownership rate in Nevada has dropped dramatically, one of the worst in the nation. And the rent prices have escalated rapidly. That's how they pay off. And that's the return on the investment for the hedge fund people. And that's killing our younger people. The ability for young people to be able to purchase a home is dropping dramatically. There is a realtor in the room who told me a story that she had a young client, first-time home buyer. They gave bids on 4 separate houses, and in every single case, this is in the Reno market, by the way, they were beat by a corporation. Finally, they found one 20 miles outside of town where they were able to buy a home and not be outbid by a corporation. So same situation is occurring. I think it's substantially worse in Clark County. So anyway, when I got involved in this thing and I realized the magnitude of the problem, I was glad to help Senator Neal. And I don't agree on a whole lot sometimes, but on this we're 100%. And I really believe this is a bipartisan issue. So I don't want to, again, go through who in what session happened to this one. And yes, there's definitely some things that I wish we could go back and correct. But what I want is for us to go forward today. Let's get some reasonable conceptual amendments, because I don't have the actual language in front of you. Dina, can I read the section 1? What the goal
And
is?
Senator Hansen,
I'm sorry.
just as a quick note, we were just handed the bill.
Good. We're getting there then. My apologies. Senator Neal and I have been working on that, and I've got members of the governor's staff who's been working on it. I mean, behind the scenes, we've been doing a lot. We really have. Dina, you want to read that? Yeah, I just want to. I think this was something that was added to the original bill. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, they're handing it out. Well, I don't have a copy of that myself. So if you got an extra, I'll take one. When everybody has a copy, I just want to read section 1, and I think the original bill did not have a kind of a legislative findings and intent. So I want to make sure that we're on the same page on this, and Senator Neal and I went through this together, and we think it's a great idea. It says the state of Nevada, well, actually, let's see. I don't know which one we have here. We have a different one. Make sure I'm on the right one here. don't have. Great. Okay, this is an amendment that we're working on, and it says, "The legislature finds and declares that the state of Nevada," and it's not on yours, so it's a conceptual we're working on. But this is the overall policy view that I want to make sure everybody can see what we're doing. Oh, you've got that? I'm sorry. Very good. Okay. Here it is. The legislature finds and declares that, 1, the state of Nevada has a compelling interest in A, promoting housing attainability for all of its residents, B, stabilizing neighborhoods adversely affected by high vacancy rates, foreclosure, blight, or other signs of economic distress, and C, supporting state or local housing programs designed to enhance community revitalization efforts, 2, ensuring a fair and competitive housing market is necessary to provide opportunities for individual home ownership and to prevent distortions in the housing market. 3, preserving the stability and character of the state's communities is essential to the welfare and prosperity of the residents of this state. And 4, reducing speculative investment in residential real estate by large institutional buyers is necessary to further these public interests and to prevent housing shortages and undue increases in housing costs. I might add, and rent for people as well. But anyway, that's the overall view of what we're trying to do here. So, all yours.
So,
Thank you,
Madam
Madam
Chair,
Chair.
Senator Hansen, just breathe. Excel. Just breathe. Just breathe. It's okay. All right. So, Madam Chair, just to go through a high level, to go through the bill. So, you guys have in the handout that you were just received and the conceptual that has green and blue. And then you have a Word doc that just has conceptual changes. That is from the Secretary of State. So right at the top, that is from the Secretary of State, and it is a friendly amendment, and it is being accepted. So in Section 2, it just literally just lays out the total aggregate number of resident units. So in your conceptual, the original language had 100. It is now 1,000 aggregate. You have added language that has who then are the corporations that are being told that they will be limited in their purchases. You have foreign corporations, multinational corporations, and hedge funds. The Secretary of State wants to change hedge funds to pooled investments. And I agree with that because the Secretary of State is a key part in this bill, because whatever we have defined in Section 2, they are going to have to register with the Secretary of State. One of the biggest problems and the issues were who is playing in Nevada, right? Who are they? How do we know who they are? And we need to make them go through the process of registering themselves, and what best place to do it within the SOS to actually have them register. When I had this conversation in 2022, we had talked internally, okay, how would this work? Is there a form that existed that, internally, because we were trying to just really get into the weeds, and it turned out that there was a form that could be tweaked within the Securities Division where we could then go and then capture who are these investment entities that under the Secretary of State in the Securities Division, they were already monitoring, but for different reasons, right? And so Section 2 also has exclusions. So this is where the folks are trying to, are worried, but in 23 and in 25, what we added in here was that it was intra-corporate sale. This is when I spoke to the builders, and they said, you need to place in here intra-corporate sale or transfer of units of residential property, real property. When they spoke to me about this in 23 and 25, when a builder builds a home, you know that they're going to sell to a resident, right? So there's an intra-corporate transfer. It could happen between, maybe it's the LLC that may be a part of the builder, but there is a transfer. So that was covered. The sale of newly constructed units of residential real property, the sale of a mobile home or manufactured home, the sale of an apartment building, because the apartment association had came up and said, oh, I know it says single family residence, but maybe we're included. And so we just specifically put the exclusion there. The newest part was that the credit union, and condos are also supposed to be a part of this exclusion. The credit union contacted us last night and said, we buy foreclosures. And we don't want to be captured because we're not necessarily the institutional investor that you're trying to go after, but we purchase foreclosures and we sell those foreclosures to others. And so they asked for that exclusion, so they were put in there. They were placed in here. And then in sub F, you have an exclusion to anything that is related to the housing division, which is typically our public housing. You know that last session we passed AB 540. And so there's an exclusion that if the housing division is acting or in a relationship with an investor, then they are not a part of the 1,000 aggregate number and then a part of the registration. The rest in section 2, if you go to sub 3, this gets into the database and tracking the aggregate number of residential real property that's purchased annually by these different types of corporations. It then tries to spell out the relationship between the Secretary of State, and then it gets into how that relationship will work in regards to the county recorder. There also is language in there where it gives some flexibility for the Secretary of State because they're going to have to do some regs between the transfer and the connection between the Clark County recorder on how, or any recorder, on how you're actually going to trigger this. So what we had talked about in 25 was we get the database, we know that there's a registration, and that the Secretary of State shall provide periodic reports to the county recorder on or through his designee on the number of units that are actually being sold, and that in those reports, there's a trigger. So there was a conversation, okay, am I triggering this at the time 99, or am I now triggering this at, 998? When am I having this conversation? Because with the recorder to then say, this is the stop. And so what we had agreed was that it was best to trigger when you knew you were going, like maybe your 5 units before you're going to hit that 1,000, and then you're sending notice to the SOS, I think we're at that threshold and we need to close this door, right? It's like, here's the hatch, and now that door needs to be closed. And it's the constant communication between them to allow for their ability to capture this. Now, on the SOS amendment, they list that they want to do some retention of the post-purchase notice filing, but I will let them break that down when they come. And they also wanted to make sure that, because at first I had a certificate, so we would know that the county recorder would be like, all right, you have the certificate, now go to the SOS and go register because we have designated that you have not met your threshold. They're saying that that's no longer needed in order to effectuate the purchase of real property, but I will have them come up and explain that. The other thing that they wanted to make sure was that in the fee language for the registration, that there was going to be a splitting of the fee, because how it normally works is that the fee that they collect goes into the general fund. But they need a portion of money in order to implement this program, and actually will need a portion. So that is not in this amendment, but we agreed to, not split the fee 50-50, but like a 25-75. And so, and then in the SOS amendment, the securities division said that they added language that they may investigate the potential violations. So there's 2 parts in here. The Attorney General has the ability to sue, and then the securities division also has the right to investigate. These are super important because Once those triggers are met, where we're like, all right, this investors or all of these investors have met the 1,000 aggregate threshold, there needs to be a point where folks can go in and determine, have you met that? Not that you're at 1,001, 1,002, but you are at this place where we know that you're at the 1,000 aggregate, and actually you can no longer purchase anything in Nevada. You'll have to wait until the next year. And so the language, which in your conceptual amendment has section XX because it doesn't really have a section yet, just kind of spells out the Attorney General being able to initiate proceedings. And then we have the final part in the amendment was, when does this take effect? So there were several questions. Is this going to affect someone who's currently in a contract or purchasing now? The act does not apply to the purchase of unit of residential real property completed on or before July 1st, 2026. So there's a grandfathering of activity that is already going on right now in 2025 up to July 1st of 2026. We also had a provision that is not in the conceptual that we were trying to give time for the Secretary of State to do their regulatory process. And so we have to make sure that that particular date also is in alignment with this July 1st, 2026. And with that's what we have to correct.
Okay.
It's not in here. So, so those are the things, because, you know, we're moving fast. There's an additional date on the regulatory process that is not in your conceptual, and that we have to work out with the Secretary of State after we have this hearing to make sure that it fits within their timeline to get this done. And so with that, Madam Chair, we can open ourselves up for questions. It's a short bill, and the conceptual tries to clean up some of the issues that we need to address.
I appreciate you doing that, and thank you very much for that information. And members, the first question, I believe, is from Assembly Majority Leader Hauge.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you both for being here and bringing this bill. I'm a firm believer in home ownership as a pathway to generational wealth, and I've spent more than 17 years. Well, I spent more than 17 years of my personal professional career in housing, both in administering and creating retention programs and down payment assistance programs for Nevadans, and helping Nevadans achieve the American dream of home ownership has never felt more out of reach than it does right now. And so I've sat in this very room and have brought various housing bills trying to combat that, because I firmly believe that if we are not here bringing solutions to help especially communities of color who build generational wealth through equity, then we are actually helping to contribute to generational poverty. And so thank you guys for being here together and for bringing this bill, because I think it will help chip away at the housing problem. But I have one question, and I just hope you guys can walk me through the discussions on how we got to the conceptual amendment, because in the bill version in section 2, it originally limits to corporations, LLCs, and affiliates to buying 100 homes a year, and then the conceptual, it's taking it to 1,000 homes a year. And I am not here in any way to let perfect be the enemy of good, but I just want you guys to walk me through how we got there.
Thank you for the question, Assemblywoman Hauge. So this was part of a negotiation. So when we sat and looked at this, and Senator Hansen's going to have a different statistic than I do, we looked at how many houses were owned in Clark County, and we looked that there were about 63,000 homes that were owned by corporate investors in Clark County. And then when we divided the number, we came to that 1% or 1.5% actually would the 1,000 would represent that 1.5% of homes, leaving us to deal with, I guess, a 98. And then when Senator Hansen did his math, or somebody gave it, it was 2.5%. But I said, as long as the aggregate number, right, the word aggregate, and it applied to all, then 1,000 being the limit is okay, even though I have been fighting consistently for the 100. It was more of a conversation with, I don't know, am I required to be nice?
Yeah.
So, okay. So it was more of a conversation with the other side that felt that they needed to see 1,000 because they actually asked for 2,000. And I was like, absolutely not. And so our middle ground was 1,000. That's the best way for me to break it down for you.
Madam Chair, if I could? Ira
Please,
Hansen again
if
for
you
the-
also will be nice.
I promise. I've been beat up enough today, so I'm
This
ready to go forward.
class has two requirements,
To
good math
to
and
answer the
nice.
question, yeah, it came out, we did the math, and I think we had condos in it at that time, and at 2,000, it was 5.6% of the total sales. So then we dropped it to 1,000 and excluded condos, and it dropped to about 2%, which we thought was a reasonable number. And again, frankly, she's right. It was a compromise. I'm trying to bring two different sides together, and we agreed to help this thing move forward in a bipartisan fashion. 1,000 was a reasonable compromise, and that's where that number came from.
Okay, thank you very much. Does that answer your question? Okay, thank you. All righty, I will go to Assemblywoman Anderson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Quick question about the, I just need a clarification on the 1,000 units. Is this one company or is this all entities that are under that same company's umbrella? So let's just say the company is XYZ. They also happen to own ABC. Is it all under that same 1,000 or is there that possibility?
Thank you for that question. So in section 2, and I believe it probably is in the doc that you guys have, which is in, you look at SB 10, line 13, it's limited liability companies and affiliates of such entities. So we were trying to make sure that we also captured not just their, like the main company, but their affiliates and potentially also their subsidiaries. One of the conversations that we were having in 2022, 23, and 25 with the Secretary of State was the subsidiary corps, and we might need to tighten that up, but we were trying to capture that in Section 2 because we knew that they were changing names. We knew that they would go in under, Company Y, and then all of a sudden they would be Company W, right? And that was a problem because they were still buying and purchasing. And so I believe that when I was working with Ms. Houston at Secretary of State, we were trying to really make sure when we said, the affiliates, that we were trying to capture that. Now, we might need to insert, I guess if you end up creating like a fictional corp, to go after that, but I kind of try to leave that within the expertise of the securities division because she's literally been watching this issue on the security side, just not for the housing, but what they were doing in other spaces. And so that is my intent, that I was going after the company that is changing its name and its subsidiary.
Thank you very much. And next I'll go to Majority Leader Canzaro.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and again, thank you, Senators, for being here and for working so diligently on this piece of legislation and some of the amendments we have before us. I actually have a question because I just want to make sure that we are all clear in terms of the enforcement pieces of this, because I believe that that is an important aspect. And this actually, if it's okay with you, Madam Chair, I do see our Attorney General sitting in the audience, and I think I have a question for you, Mr. AG. I know you're not part of the presentation, but part of this bill includes some enforcement provisions within the Attorney General's office. So I have a question for you, if that would be okay, Madam
Surprise
Chair.
pop quiz. Thank you very much.
You have to be careful sitting in the audience. We might sometimes need to call you up for a surprise appearance. So in Section 3, this talks about the the ability for the Attorney General to bring an action in the event of a violation for this, and it specifically mentions injunctions, other equitable relief that's appropriate to ensure compliance with and enforcement. And so I guess, can you explain, because I know I've been watching and I know we've had lots of conversations about the ability for your office to kind of tackle some of these issues. And I know that you had a recent, and I know it's not the same, so I'm wondering a two-part question. Number one, if you can explain whether this plays into or is separate from some of the things that we've seen your office do with respect to like the Real Page and that sort of lawsuit, which was one that we hadn't really seen before. And then two, in conjunction with that, because this is explicitly giving you these tools, like, are these tools that you would be able to use? Do you need in order to do that? Or are the enforcement pieces that you currently have, like we've seen in that lawsuit, which I know is a little bit different, sufficient? And I just want to make sure that whatever we are giving in terms of enforcement pieces in this through your office would be the appropriate way in which to facilitate enforcement with this particular law.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so very much for the question. My name is Aaron Ford. For the record, I am your Attorney General. Madam Chair, directly.
Please, and thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm actually here to testify in support of the bill, and I will reserve that testimony unless you let me do it now, for that time period, but happy to answer that particular question. You mentioned Real Page, and that is a seminal case that our office was able to undertake. Real Page is an organization that had and has been accused of and had litigation filed against it for conspiring with landlords to set rent prices at certain levels in certain neighborhoods, making rent more expensive for our residents. We sued them and we settled with them such that we have been able to require certain what we call injunctive relief, which is very important for purposes of our residents. They can no longer do certain actions that they were doing that allowed these landlords to jack up rent prices. We also were able to augment some of the work that you guys did in an assembly bill where you were rewarding, or rather awarding, rental assistance monies. We were able to get rental assistance monies from Real Page as well. That in fact, our office is setting up the program for that particular opportunity for those who need it. But the overarching issue is exactly the same. Corporations working essentially against our residents, our respective constituents, in a way that disenfranchises them from home ownership, but not even home ownership, also being able to rent attainable housing. And so I commend what is happening at this level with Senator Hansen and specifically and especially Senator Neal, who has done, I got goosebumps thinking about it because you've put in yeoman's work. And, you know, while this is not my opportunity, unless you give me the opportunity to testify in support, I do want to commend. I would love that because I got a plane to catch at 12:30.
Attorney General, I'm going to let you, due to your time constraints and trying to be in both ends of the state all the time, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. I will state that testimony as well. But, Madam Majority Leader, was that sufficient for purposes of your question?
Thank you for that answer. And I think what I sort of gleaned from that answer was that this seems to be complementary to
Absolutely.
the current actions, which is helpful just because as we're looking at how we would enforce the provisions of this law, or if there are additional tools that may be necessary in order to ensure compliance, it seems like this bill, in what you've testified to, complements it, but is necessary for the enforcement provisions to allow you to be able to seek that injunctive or equitable relief if someone is in violation, which would be in addition to some of the other actions that you've taken. So I appreciate that, and I think answers my question. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Attorney General, did you have any other comments you would like to make at this time?
I would love to testify in support of the bill.
Okay, I'm going to break protocol here real quick so that you can get to your next meeting.
Thank you. And the reason why I have a flight to catch is because I'm headed to meetings in Southern Nevada about this very issue. In fact, yesterday, I was at University of Nevada, Reno, talking to some students about this very issue. And so allow me to offer you my specific testimony here. I'm Aaron Ford, your Attorney General, here to testify regarding Senate Bill 10, specifically to the portion of the bill that limits the number of homes of corporations that they can purchase. Over the past week, I completed my statewide working class first tour. I visited 17 counties across the silver state. And at every single stop, hardworking Nevadans told me the exact same thing. The cost of housing is unbearable and it's unaffordable. Just last night, I had a town hall at UNR with graduate student workers where a man literally told me that he is selling his plasma in order to pay rent. That was last night. That's how desperate this crisis has become. Under Governor Joe Lombardo, housing costs in Nevada have hit record highs. And when he was given the opportunity to do something about it by signing legislation that would have limited out-of-state corporations from buying up our homes and pricing Nevadans out of their communities, he failed to do so. Again, this month, he refused to include it in this special legislative session. Kudos to you all for making that happen. Now, because of his dereliction of duty, Nevada families are suffering, and Wall Street hedge funds are the largest landlords in Clark County, having amassed thousands and thousands of homes. Whether it's multi-billion-dollar Wall Street firms buying up all these houses or massive property management companies facilitating collusion to illegally inflate rents, the story is always the same: powerful interests rigging the system to pad their profits at the expense of working families. That's why I'm proud to see Democrats and Republicans in this legislature coming together to pass this legislation in a bipartisan way that will uplift working families trying to buy their first home. And I specifically want to commend Senators Neal and Hansen, and Assemblymember Hansen, specifically for Senator Neal, your tenaciousness in this, and Senator Hansen, Senator and Assemblywoman Hansen, for your courage to stand up and do this together in a bipartisan way. I know how difficult it is in this building, especially right now, and I commend you for being willing to stand up. The open question remains, however, if whether the governor is going to muster the same comparable courage and finally do something to address this specific issue. Because let's be clear, we would not be here today but for the governor's initial veto and his subsequent successful killing of the actual bill. And now it appears that he wanted to water down the original bill even more by adding a limit of 2,000. A bill that settles, this bill settles at 1,000, and it's better than nothing to be sure, but let's be clear, it's still corporations over people for Joe Lombardo. So look, I hope Joe Lombardo reverses his opposition and finally signs this legislation so Nevadans can not be priced out of homes by corporations. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being here with us today. And with that, I will jump to Assemblyman Patchett, I believe, has a question.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. Thank you, Senators Neal and Hansen, for your work on this. This is a crucial topic and issue that needs to be resolved here in Nevada, and I do appreciate your efforts. My question concerns really constitutionality of the bill itself. I think under a rational basis test, this bill survives scrutiny under a due process challenge or even equal protection. However, under the Commerce Clause, what assurances in the bill help us to avoid a challenge of a dormant Commerce Clause issue? Specifically, are we allowing for interstate commerce to investors to invest in Nevada real estate? And if so, what contemplations have been had to make sure that we survive that type of test if challenged in the future?
Senator Neal, thank you for the question. So when I first looked at this, right, and I know that you are new to our body, I looked at the legislature and I asked the question, what are the public policy powers that the legislature has, right? Because the legislature has plenary powers in certain space, right? They also have been able to use, as you know, they have a policing power, right? And that policing power allows them to protect public health and safety, but it's a little bit broader than that when a crisis comes. So I saw legislation historically that had been processed in this building where we engaged in restrictive activity using our policing powers as a legislature to then control a certain behavior or to protect. And I look to the 14th Amendment, I look to states' power through the 5th Amendment, because under the states' power in the 5th Amendment, there are recognized powers that a legislature can affect economic values. I'm super familiar with the dormant commerce clause because it was one of these nuance issues that I got into in 2013, where I was trying to figure out what are the exceptions to those powers, right? Because there's always this conversation between the privileges and immunities clause, which is whether or not you are restricting someone and therefore preventing them from having a particular privilege to act in the state. And there was this case that I was looking at because I was trying to determine, are there opportunities where government can act similar to a private actor or company for protection, right? And I remember pulling it because I was trying to make the argument when Sandoval was governor that a city could then perform certain behavior if they were acting for the purpose and the benefit of their own constituency. And so when I started to look at that example, and that when you asked that question, I started to think, okay, well, how does that really, how does that play into that, right? Because ultimately, the state is not a city. A state actually has greater and stronger powers than a municipality because a legislature is vested with different powers through its constitution and then is allowed to behave in a particular way when a crisis is happening to their people. That's why the public policy statement is a guiding light and a point, because it also becomes an actionable part of legislation when it's passed. So when folks start to argue, was it really a crisis when you impinged my ability to purchase? The answer was yes. The state acted in a way to protect its own citizens, knowing that there was a housing crisis, establishing that there were very key provisions that they recognized and that they needed to do and act in order to perform for the benefit and the protection and the welfare of their own citizens. And that's where I anchored myself. I also then looked, I don't know how deep you want to go. How deep you want to go?
Senator, I appreciate you elaborating in depth. And, I think it's great to create that record. If this is challenged, at least the legislative history will reflect what your thought process was in drafting this particular piece of legislation. So I think you've answered my question. I'll spare you to continue to explain. I think this is a vital piece of legislation, obviously, and I think the Dormant Commerce Clause, I just want to ensure that we are not unintentionally restricting the free investment within within Nevada specifically, and allowing that to happen, as we don't want to run into any constitutional violations in the future. So again, thank you for your response, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, and I will go to Assemblymember Backus.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And my question is probably pretty straightforward. I just want to make sure I understood something. And I too always appreciate the bipartisan work in the state of Nevada that often gets overlooked. But with respect to the friendly amendment from the Secretary of State's office, when I first looked at it, it said, consider doing this, but it sounds like you all have agreed with the Secretary of State's proposed recommendations. And one thing that I now appreciate is there was some requirement for some certificates, but it seems like a lot of the work could be done on the backside and won't slow down sales or transfer of real estate. And I just wanted to get your guys' kind of like agreement that this friendly amendment is going to be taken with the bill.
Thank you, Senator Neal, for the record. Thank you for the question. Yes, this is a friendly amendment, and we support it. After this hearing, we're going to have some more conversation. But I support it because I know Miss Houston, she was getting on an international flight. So they were sending, I believe, Mr. Voloshin to come, but I trust her because I have engaged with her since 2022 in this kind of detail. And so when she pulls something out in nuance, I believe and understand because she has literally been in this conversation with me for 3 years.
Okay, I'll go to Assemblymember Mosca.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you both for this incredible work. It's just a quick question because, Senator, you mentioned condos. Are condos and townhouses also excluded?
Senator Hansen, yeah, condos, I haven't been able to find a legal definition of a townhouse, so that is something we're looking at, though. But for condos, yes, definitely the intent was to exclude them from this.
All right, thank you. Is that it? Okay, good. Thank you very much, Assemblymember Hafen.
Chair, actually, my questions have already been answered. Thank you.
All right, Senator Krasner.
Thank you, Chair Don Darrell Loop, and thank you, Senator Krasner and Senator Neal, for your presentation. My question is in regards to Section 2, in the amended Section 2. Except as otherwise provided in subsection 2, the total aggregate number of units residential real property in the state that may be purchased in any one calendar year by corporations, foreign corporations, multinational corporations, hedge funds, limited liability companies, and affiliates of such entities must not exceed 1,000 units. So just as a clarification for the record, in one scenario, this would allow X Corp to buy up to 1,000 units. It would allow Y Corp to buy 1,000 units. It would allow Z Corp to buy 1,000 units all in 1 year. The latter scenario, which I'm not sure which one you're meaning in this legislation, the latter one only allows X Corp to buy if 999 other corporate purchases have not been made by other companies or company in that calendar year. So is it scenario 1 or scenario 2? Can X Corp buy 1,000 per year? Can Y Corp buy 1,000 in the same year? Can Z Corp buy 1,000 in the same year? Or is it 1,000 for all corporations, foreign corporations, multinational corporations, et cetera, in one calendar year? Thank you.
Senator Neal, for the record, thank you, Senator Krasner, for that question, because I do think that's a very important piece to put on here. My intent was it was the total aggregate number of units, meaning it would be all. So it would be 1,000, not like 1,000 for 1, 1,000 for 2, 1,000 for 3, 1,000 for 4. And then we end up with 4,000 units that are actually purchased versus the total aggregate of just 1,000 for that year. Because the idea is to free up the market, right? So regular home buyers have the ability to go in and purchase and are not always in this, feast or frenzy, because as Senator Hansen put on the record, the ability to bid against a corporate investor, a regular family does not have that capacity. And that has been an ongoing. We also, I'll just stop it there. It's total aggregate 1,000.
Thank you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so thank you very much. And just reiterating what you said, your intent is that it is 1,000 aggregate number for all corporations, foreign corporations, multinational corporations, hedge funds, limited liability corporations, and affiliates of such entities per calendar year as an aggregate, correct? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Rogich?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Neal, thank you for what you're doing, and I appreciate all you've done with regard to the housing crisis. And my question is with regard to metrics, and will there be any metrics in place to evaluate the effectiveness of this bill after implementation?
Yes. So thank you for that question, Senator Rogich. I believe we were, and we could tighten this up, but it's in section 2(3)(b). We were, under the Secretary of State Securities Division, we were creating a database that tracks the aggregate number. Now that database, I mean, clearly we're looking for the sales, because the database was who's playing in the state, what is their characteristic, right? And knowing how much they're actually purchasing. And so is there anything in your thought, Senator Rogich, that we could add to sub B to make a stronger metric in the database? Because there is some reporting as well. I believe it's in SB 10 that there's a reporting mechanism as well.
Senator Neal, I haven't had a chance to really digest all the information, and I would love to collaborate with you, and that was always my concern that I was raising today. It was not about the bill. It was more about the process, and I think this is an important issue, and I would have loved to have been part of it and talk with you as to, and I know that wasn't caused by you. I get that, and so I would love to talk with you more. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Rogich. I mean, I genuinely respect you. So we have like probably an hour. So as soon as we finish with this awesome hearing, let's get together and let's get your perspective in this bill, because I have gathered and gained a great amount of respect for you.
So thank you very much. And just as a reminder that this is called special session for a reason, and things move quickly, and it is not to slight anyone in this room. It is to work fast. And so just please be respectful to everyone. Senator Steinbeck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you both for bringing this important legislation. My concern is with some possible unintended consequences. I do support this very strongly. The issues that I just want to walk through, we have here that in Section 2, the sale of newly constructed units of residential real property. And one of my concerns with that is that we have we've had a market where older inventory, people are staying in their homes because of favorable interest rates, as well as favorable tax structure, right? So they're not moving out of old homes, they're staying, they're not downsizing sometimes like they used to because of the market. And I think one of the unintended consequences that could happen is that these corporations then could focus on the new market, which would squeeze home buyers out of some of those opportunities. A second unintended consequence that I'm concerned with is if we were to have a market like we did in 2008 to 2010, where we have inventories at such a level that we would be excluding purchasers from people that are desperate then to sell their homes. So those are just a couple things I'd like to consider.
Yeah, so Senator Neal, for the record, so the first one, I understand what you're saying. I'm trying to think about that in terms of a policy fix, because currently what's happening in the market, right? There are so many things that happen in the market. So they have acted as predatory lenders and, predatory buyers, and have gone into the poorer neighborhoods and siphoned up property. That's one instance. The second instance that they've done is they've literally constructed brand new neighborhoods and then put them for rent. The third activity that they have done is to go in and say, well, I'm just going to kind of insert myself into a city and construct maybe 10 or 15 houses on a street and then make those for rent, right? And so I'm trying to think about what would be the trigger that kind of addresses what you're saying as the unintended consequence for the buyer that wants to, the seller that wants to then come from their old home to move up, because they're not going to actually be, they're not an LLC, right? The family trust is out. So if it's just a single family that is like, I want to upgrade, they're not captured in this bill. So, yeah.
Oh, to clarify, my concern is that because the corporations are limited in the number of older homes that they can purchase, that now they will focus on the newer homes, if I'm reading that right. And now those newer homes won't be available to the individual families that want to buy a newer home.
We have like a short period of time, and Senator Hansen's going to talk about let's think through that. Let me just think.
And just as
while
a,
she's thinking, look, there's a political reality behind that, and the Southern Nevada home builders didn't want to be included in the bill, and they would have aggressively opposed it. Okay, just get it out there. They have assured us that they have in their contractual arrangements percentage limitations on what corporations can buy in the new housing market. But that is definitely a fear. If we eliminate them from existing home sales, will they then focus in the new market? To get this thing through, there were some political realities, so we've limited it to existing residential homes. On the second part, the question of what do we do in an emergency situation like 2008, 9, 10? There is a clause in the conceptual amendment, section 2F. The sale of existing residential real property that the administrator of the housing division of the Department of Business and Industry determines to be in the public interest. Okay, we have a safety clause there. Now we do have to get some regulatory language for that. I'm sure he's going to come up and testify because he doesn't want that responsibility all on his shoulders. But that is a safety clause, basically. If we're in a true emergency, then we can come up with some emergency ways to perhaps allow corporations to purchase more than we would normally allow. But obviously, that is something that we want to avoid at all costs. But to address your concern, yes, there is in the law, if this passes, a safety mechanism to allow that if it's in the absolute public interest. Hopefully, we'll never see that. But
And I do think that in the conceptual amendment that you have where we put in that public policy purpose, I think it's something we could flesh out when you look at, what is that? Sub 2, where it says ensuring that a fair and competitive housing market is necessary to provide opportunities for individual home ownership and to prevent distortions within the housing market. So I think that is the particular sentence in which we can examine and maybe do some kind of drop-down language there, because I think that broad sentence speaks to what you're saying, but it doesn't have any kind of subtext in the actual language of the bill. I'm not saying outside of a public policy purpose, but like taking that sentence and then placing it somewhere else and then putting some clear caveats on what do we mean by competitiveness, individual ownership, and what we would say is a trigger that we would look into that is like, we see this as a disruption and an inability to buy, right? Does that make, I'm just flying off the cuff right there. But, but I think that could be a possibility.
Thank you both.
Thank you very much. And I will go to Assembly Member Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here. A couple of things. So first and foremost, because I think a lot of us are doing disclaimers, we're here at a special session. I signed a petition to say, let's visit this subject, because for Pete's sake, we're here on like 13, 14 other bills. So we couldn't get to housing. We've been trying. So I was open to the idea. And anybody who knows me, I love the hearing process because that's where you get information, you try to collaborate. Yes, we're rushed. So because I signed a petition doesn't mean, I need to have this hearing. I need to have things put to rest. And also for some additional clarity, and Chair, I appreciate the indulgence. I am here not only as a realtor, a Nevada licensed realtor since '07, not wanting to hurt any industry. We own a plumbing company, don't want to hurt the trades, and so appreciate our tradesmen and women. But there needs to be a discussion about what's going on, and it's multifaceted. So we can talk about inventory, we can talk new, we can talk existing, but in real life, what's happening, this necklace from that little first-time home buyer as a thank you, who was up against 4 losses, and their hearts broken because they couldn't compete against these cash corporate buys. I'm in the trenches, I'm seeing it. So I'm here to try to find where is the sweet spot to help these homeowners. So when we talk about existing, why that's so important, I think, to protect, because it's the first-time home buyer that needs to buy the older distressed properties. This idea that, we'll address what happened in the downturn, because I was there. But it's these older distressed properties that are a lower price that we need for the new first-time home buyer. And so we gotta protect that part of the market. I'm a free market gal. I'm not a free trader, I'm a fair trader, and I wanna see that happen here without disrupting industries. So thank you for letting me get that on the record. For the first-time home buyer, when they have opportunities to get, and as I understand, 25% of the homes in North Las Vegas are owned by these big corporations, hedge funds. You know what? We're seeing this happen in the plumbing and the electrical industries too. These equity firms are buying up. We haven't sold. They're buying those up. This is not something that's just housing. There is a big movement afoot. So when a new home buyer for first time, they can't afford the property taxes on the newer homes. I mean, the more newer home that is a higher price. So they look for an older home, a more distressed home. And so that's why I have an interest in protecting that market. I think I have a question in regards to, do we have some understanding of where land lies with this? Like if they want to buy dirt, these big corporations.
Senator Neal, for the record, I did not have that as an exclusion or address that in this bill.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll go to Assemblymember O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. And if I may, actually, I've got 2 questions. One, I need clarification. The other one is a direct, hopefully easy answer. If you'd allow me, Chair.
Yes.
Okay. Senator Neal, I apologize. I need some clarification. It was my understanding at a prior discussion that the 1,000 limit was per corporation and their subsidiaries. This is one corporation could actually buy up all 1,000 homes and put their competitors out of the market for the year. Is that what I heard correct?
In the prior iterations of the bill, 391, and I don't even remember the other number from 23, it was always aggregate. Like there were people who were debating me on aggregate, but I always had total aggregate.
So the answer would be yes, one corporation could
That is
realistically.
true. One corporation could come in, bite the apple, and no one else could play.
For the year.
Yeah, which is why I had, well, anyway, I'll just put it there.
Okay. That's what I was hoping was a simple answer. The other question I have, and I wanted to ask the Attorney General, but he left. I know several times he's come in and asked for expansions in his budget as he's tacked on more responsibilities. You may not, I assume, can't answer this, but have you had any conversations with any of the departments in the state where they would attach fiscal notes to this? I know it just came out, there's no notes listed, but since we're working so quickly, I was just curious, do you anticipate from the AG or any other state agencies?
So Senator Neal, for the record, and maybe Mr. Thornley can pull up the prior notes from 391, but SOS had a fiscal note, will have a fiscal note. Part of what they are going to come up with an amendment is the fee language in the bill. Because it says it creates a fee. There was to allow that fee to go to them to take care of the implementation, right? Not all of the money that they generate, and that's what I mentioned about the 75 to the general fund and the 25%, so that the SOS could then implement this bill. So they are supposed to do a fiscal note, but we're hoping that in the fee that they're going to charge for the registration, it is going to be absorbed.
Senator Neal, I believe the Secretary of State representative is down at the table in Las Vegas. And so if you would like to weigh in from Las Vegas, or you have any additional information for us, please feel free to weigh in.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the question, Madam Chair, through you to the Senator. This is Erin Houston, for the record, Erin Houston, Deputy Secretary of State for Securities. We will be filing a fiscal note. I don't have the number in front of me, and I do understand that there's discussion about how the fee that's described in the language you have in front of you may be utilized in part or in full for establishing the program. We do anticipate there will be. I would characterize it as a fairly significant expense, only because we will be implementing a brand new program, and it will depend entirely on how it shakes out, what the final language is, what the requirements of the bill are, and we stand ready to assist and help in any way we can.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions, Assembly Member?
Just to clarify, the Secretary of State's office, I understand, do you anticipate the Attorney General or any other divisions asking for part of that fee or asking for increases in their budgets?
Well, just, Ira Hands for the record, we expect fiscal notes. I mean, we're not trying to figure out some way to get around the fees. We will have fiscal notes with this bill, and so it will be, I think, a 2/3 vote. But we're on it, right?
So Senator Neal, for the record, I just went back and pulled up SB 391. At the time, March 25th, 2025, and I guess there's an update. I mean, the fiscal note that was submitted by the Secretary of State was 0. So now, clearly, and I mean, you can pull the record, right? And then I went and I was looking at the, because typically, right, you can have a little sentence that says, I know I said 0, but when I reviewed it and, 5 months from now, I'm going to tell you it's going to cost me a bunch of money. But it said that the agency had reviewed this bill and determined that there was no fiscal impact. Then the local governments had put a fiscal, and they said that, 0. And so I think there are questions that this is why we were trying to work out the fee, right? So which was, it's going to cost you something, but I think it's a better question to ask. We don't, if you want to go there, but I'm just telling you what was filed in 2025.
And I understand that. I was curious mainly about the Attorney General.
The Attorney General did not put a fiscal note, and Attorney General is always in the language. They had never put a fiscal note on the bill in the prior session.
I appreciate it.
And I'm going to have Mr. Thorley weigh in real quick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. In Senate Bill 391 from the 83rd Legislative Session, the first reprint of the bill in Section 6, the bill language did include a general fund appropriation for the Secretary of State's office. for the costs of personnel, travel, operating equipment, information services, and contractors to carry out the provisions of that bill. The appropriation would have been $476,000 in FY26 and approximately $82,000 in FY27. That language was amended out of the bill for the second reprint, and of course this bill did not pass. But that's information from the bill from last session about the potential fiscal impact on the Secretary of State's office.
Thank you very much. All right, we will go to Assemblyman Hafen.
Thank you, Chair. My question was in regards to how the Attorney General's office would be reimbursed for the investigations. Would they be reimbursed from the Secretary of State's office through the fees that are being collected, or would that just be absorbed through their general fund appropriations?
Senator Neal, for the record, so I don't know if it was ever contemplated or they had that conversation around doing, a shared cost agency support where there is, a crossover. I think at the time, because they did not put in a note, I can't answer that question, right? I don't have any historical reference in order to pull from in regards to why they didn't do the note in 25 and to answer how they contemplated, because clearly if they didn't put in the note, then maybe it was under the Attorney General to absorb some of those costs. I don't know the answer to that.
Madam Chair, Ira Hans for the record. I believe the Secretary of State's office has a Deputy Attorney General already assigned to it, so there probably wouldn't be a great deal of cost unless this went forward in some, big significant lawsuit, and then maybe they would be able to recoup some costs through a settlement. But my understanding is every government agency has already a legal representative from the Attorney General for the most part, so that cost is already incorporated into their budgets.
Thank you very much, and I'll go to Assemblyman Patchett.
Thank you, Chair. So back to the Equal Protection Clause, I'm just curious, we've segregated out a certain investor group based on the bill, and then we've said within that investor group, these types of entities are exempt. That being a trust company or, I forget what the other one, a housing authority. Is there any concern, does this violate the Equal Protection Clause? And if not, why?
So thank you for the question. So you're asking, if I have created categories where one group is being treated differently than another group, and therefore somehow somebody is going to make the argument that an equal protection clause or an equal protection issue or is at work. Well, my simple answer to that is when we examine how we categorized who we were addressing, we were thinking about who was harming and who was creating, I'll say, harm, interference, and the housing crisis for Nevada citizens. And that within that categorization of the entities that we were restricting, right? We're not saying you can't buy anything. We're limiting what you can buy because we have evidence and proof of the effect of your behavior in the state upon our citizens. So my question to you would be, because I'm going to just throw that one back. my question to you would be, if there's an equal protection challenge and the legislature has established within their policing power that they have decided that there are corporations that due to their behavior and activity, we are choosing to regulate them and limit their activity for the benefit of our citizens because we have determined harm, what then becomes the challenge where they say that they are not producing harm when we have a series of reports, news stories, national articles that have established that harm is occurring and that the action of the corporation is limiting the ability for our own citizens to be housed? What do you believe would be their counter argument to that?
Thank you, Senator Neal. I don't have a counter argument to that. I believe, based on what you've stated and the preamble that's on the conceptual amendment, that there is a rational basis for the restriction. My question, I guess, the follow-up to the question is why segregate out or exempt out? So you exempted out corporations, right? You said, hey, these types of entities, if they purchase more than 15 units per year, right? There's a cap on how much they can purchase that year, up to 1,000. Right, in the aggregate with everybody else, right? There's one pool of houses, it's 1,000. You can swallow them all up if you can, or 50 or whatever. But then within that corporation definition, you exclude out family trusts. What's the basis for that segregation between a corporation that qualifies, for the definition or the conceptual bill versus what NRS says a family trust is? What's the difference there? Why is there a difference? My experience within the trust world, not every trust has more than 15 properties, but there are trusts, family trusts, that have, 50 to 100 properties. Why are we segregating them out and making them exempt from this bill?
Okay. Thank you for that question, Assemblyman Patchett. All right, so I want to deal with the first part of that, right? Because you said you believe that it is rationally related, right? That the rational basis test, right? So since we're getting to the 14th Amendment. But I guess my question is, this is the first part, do we need to meet a higher level of scrutiny in order to enact our legislative plenary power? Does that fall under a strict scrutiny? Because if it's rationally related to the plenary power and the policing power that we are exhibiting, then we met the test, right? Under the 14th Amendment? Because as you know, right, because I guess we're doing education and con law, which was my favorite class, that we're doing that there are these tiers, right? We have strict, we have intermediate, and then we have rational basis. All right, so you're saying it's meeting the rational basis. So we're good there. So the second question that you presented on the record was, how did I come up with the exclusions for the family trust? So when we were talking and examining the corporate greed that is acting, or actors that are displaying corporate greed in Nevada, we looked at who were the entities that were harming, and then who are the entities that family trust and mom and pop who are literally just saying, I am trying to expand my generational wealth. I have decided that, I own, a property for myself. I bought additional, property for my children. And I am engaging in the free market, as Senator Hansen loves, to say that I would like to create some level of wealth for my personal benefit, not because I'm acting in a greedy way, but because the capitalist system has allowed me to perform and engage to expand my generational wealth for my family. I had had a conversation at the time with the Real Estate Association, which then said, we actually have these smaller groups that are just, mom and pop families that have, they've established a level of economic security for themselves, and they should not be penalized for that. And that is a very different distinction from a BlackRock that is coming in and siphoning thousands and thousands of properties at one time because of corporate greed and the fact that they would like to control the housing market because that was their next boon within the capitalist system. And it didn't matter whether or not the greed of the corporate buyer was affecting the ability of our own citizens to purchase homes. So they became categorized in this bill because we could establish true harm and crisis that was created because of their behavior, not just for 1 year, right? And not just for 3. Actually, we established about 5-6 years of consistent corporate actors that were acting to the detriment of our citizens in this state. And I said, hey, within the plenary power of the legislature, can we go in and use our policing powers to then say, I am going to limit your behavior mainly for the purpose to allow our own citizens to be housed, our own citizens to compete, our own citizens who choose not to be renters to participate in the American dream and actually have home ownership and therefore generational wealth that they can pass down to their families. And that was my calculus. Okay.
Thank you, Senator Neal. I appreciate that for my understanding. And I know I'm new, right? But I'm not new to the game of legislation. So thank you for your response, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Chair Ira Hansen, real quick. My answer is much more simple. LCB cleared it, so that's it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to go to Assemblymember Dickman. I think this might be the last question.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you so much, Senators, for doing this in this special session. I think my question is probably easy, and I'm not sure if you can even answer it, but I'm curious to know if a lot of this activity, this corporate purchasing, goes on in these smaller areas, maybe the more rural areas, smaller counties, to the point that this is going to be a huge burden, this reporting on the smaller county recorders that do 2 jobs, like, clerk recorder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ira Hansen for the record. I haven't seen much problem in the rural areas. I think, too, got to understand that the average salary in the mining industry is about $125,000. So these people are able to do pretty good. And I don't think I haven't seen any evidence in my rural counties where this has become an issue. It is in Washoe County. It's definitely in Clark County. But we'll be watching that. And also by limiting it to 1,000, if there are buyers that buy substantial numbers in rural areas going forward, they'll still be capped to at least 1,000. But we'll get the records. We'll know.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, this is the last, I think. Assemblywoman Haddocky.
Thank you. And I just have a quick question. I promise it's really quick, but I just want to make sure that it's clear and on the record where the responsibility is going to be, because I was looking at the new section, the section XX on the conceptual, and then the deletion of subsection 7 on the second conceptual. And I just want to know, where's the burden, or who's the burden going to be on when if someone goes into a contract, escrow is open, title is pulled, a sale is made, the deed is recorded with the recorder, where is the burden going to lie on who has to verify whether there is 1,000 properties or not? Is that going to lie with the county recorder before they record the document, or is that going to lie with title insurance while they're researching title, or is that going to be through escrow? So just want to make sure it's clear.
Thank you, Record. Ira Hansen. One of the things that we do, we are talking that conceptually is a safe harbor provision to deal with what you're addressing. Says a seller of a unit of residential real property is not subject to penalty under this section if prior to the sale, the seller obtained a certificate of capacity for the purchase of, or a written statement from the buyer affirming that the purchase complies with Section 3 of this act. So what you're saying is what happens if somebody if I understand the question, buys a house, but it's already exceeded the 1,000 cap? Then we do what we are working on a conceptual amendment for a safe harbor provision so that they would not be penalized if it's just an honest mistake because of the timeframes or whatever. So that is something that we were aware of, and we are working to try to remedy that.
Okay.
Is that it?
Let me address it. So when we contemplated this, the county recorder, right, we had a certificate where the county recorder and SOS would be having a consistent conversation and periodic reporting going back and forth, right, monitoring these actual purchases. So the burden was actually shared. It wasn't just on one. The onus was on two parties. Because when it's recorded, so we had these conversations around, okay, do you want to know before they're recording? You're like, that's totally impossible. You have to know, like they have to record and then you have to let SOS know that this was recorded. So then the whole registration part of this is very important because if you come in and you're, fall into this category of being a certain type of company, you need to register with the SOS. This first stop. The way I had the language in here, which I guess SOS was believing that the certificate wasn't needed, was that they would then have the certificate, then go to the county recorder saying, I have the certificate, I have been approved, here is my certificate deed and everything else, please record me, right? That's the way we had talked through it, so that could work. Now, internally, SOS saying, I don't think we need that certificate because that's in their conceptual amendment that's sitting right here, is something that if they're saying that can internally do this, then I will just rely on the fact that they're believing that that's what they can do. But that is the mechanism that we put in place. You register, get your cert, go by, do your recording. We then have documentation that this is what happened. We know that we're tracking the certs, and we know that all of this activity has happened. When we talked to title, not the last session, they were saying, well, what if, which is what Senator Hansen was talking about, what if I record and they go through title and I don't know about what's going on and the activity, and then I record something and they're at 1,001. And so there has to be a conversation, right, within this reg process. How does title fit into that? Because clearly it is not in a vacuum. When you know that this is happening at the state level, you are then have to be engaged with the regulatory process to make sure that whatever that middle step is, that you are part of understanding how that trigger is going to work. Because the only thing that we could really nail down was what's the responsibility for the cert, who's responsible for letting you know that that happened, that there is going to be a shared relationship between SOS and the recorders. And so we knew there was a middle step, but it wasn't anything that we could finite put in language in the bill. So that's where it is.
Madam Chair, just a quick follow-up, and I don't want to delay the hearing, Senator, but I literally just thought about this with my title insurance hat, and I was just thinking, like, oh my God, what if there's like concurrently like two escrows happening at the same time, right? That would put them at 1,001, and then that buyer could then come back and then file a claim against title, right? Like against title insurance and say like, hey, you should record this. Now I want title insurance to kick in, and you owe me all of the money that I spent. And so we can take this offline, but I literally just thought.
But that's why Senator Hansen had that safe harbor provision, because we know that could happen, right? So it's kind of like the hold harmless. Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, I would really like to give us time to move on in this process, because I know that we have a little more work to do. And so if everybody's okay with that, we will move ourselves to taking testimony in support, opposition, and neutral. And if we could also do this rather quickly. Once again, I'll remind you of the ditto feature in this room. And so with that, if you are in support of Senate Bill 10, if you would like to come forward and give your testimony and here in Carson City, and I will watch down in Las Vegas as well in just a minute. So let's start here, and please go ahead when you are ready.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Aisha Goins with Black Joy Strategies, AESHAGOINS. I am just so grateful to be here on the special session, the session that finally feels special. I just appreciate the committee for being here and for being dedicated to the process. The NAACP is so grateful to have bipartisan support for our housing crisis. It just feels good right now in this moment to be a part of this, and I just wanted to say that. The NAACP supports SB 10 because when corporates treat homes like monopoly properties, regular families can't even pass go. Capping corporate purchases annually keeps the dream of home ownership alive for those who want to own homes, not portfolios. Families have faced enough housing barriers without competing against corporate algorithms, especially Black families, and that has been stated so many times this session, again, as last session. Let's keep Nevada houses as homes, not just as assets. I appreciate Senator Neal and also Senator Hansen for being on one accord to get this accomplished. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Chair and members of the committee, Jonathan Norman with the Nevada Coalition of Legal Service Providers, NORMAN. I appreciate this bill. Obviously, corporations don't just prey on Nevadans by outcompeting people who are trying to buy their first home. They also extract wealth through the rental process. So the more homes they own, they defer maintenance, pushing that on to the tenants. You can read about that in FTC complaints against a number of the large corporations that own properties in Nevada. I appreciate the discussion because I think the clarification on the aggregate was very important. Obviously, if 4 corporations were able to each buy 1,000 homes, I don't know that any corporation has ever bought 1,000 in a year, so I think that's very critical. The bill as written does not seem to exempt condos and townhomes. I hear there's an amendment. I would just hope that sponsors consider that, often condos and townhomes are the first step on the property ladder. And so if you have young people who cannot afford a home where the average price is $400,000 or $500,000, a condo is a good way to start building equity. And I would be afraid if we exempted those that the eye of corporate buyers and private equity might shift to condos and townhomes and freeze out those people who may not have a down payment for a $500,000 home. And then, so just appreciate that and hope the sponsors consider that as they grapple with the amendment. As the bill's written, I think it covers that, though.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Chair, or good afternoon, Chair Dondera Lupin.
Good
Chair,
something.
Yeah, whatever time it is. And members of the Senate Assembly Jobs and Economy Committee. For the record, my name is Mindy Elliott, Senior Vice President with Flynn Judici Government Affairs. I'm here today on behalf of the Nevada Housing Coalition in support of Senate Bill 10. We were also in support of Senate Bill 391 in the previous iterations. This bill would certainly cap the number of residential real estate units that corporations, LLCs, and their affiliates may purchase in Nevada within a given calendar year. As a statewide coalition dedicated to advancing affordable housing solutions, we believe SB 10 is an important step toward leveling the playing field for Nevada families and first-time homebuyers. In recent years, the recent increase in corporate acquisitions in residential market has contributed to rising home prices, reduced housing inventory, and heightened competition, often pushing Nevadans out of homeownership opportunities. By establishing a reasonable cap on bulk residential acquisitions by large-scale entities, SB 10 helps preserve access to housing for individual buyers and local residents. We have also uploaded a letter to Nellis in support of SB 10 by the Nevada Housing Coalition. And just to keep my comments short, for the reasons that you've already heard and certainly the robust discussion that took place, the Nevada Housing Coalition strongly supports SB 10 and urges the committee to advance this legislation. We appreciate your commitment to ensuring that Nevada housing market remains fair, accessible, and centered on community well-being, and we thank you for your time this morning or afternoon.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For your record, Maggie Carlton, Maggie Carlton. Oh my gosh, we're at day 7 and I can't spell my last name. 6, and we can't spell my last name. Representing Culinary Local 226. We know people come to the state of Nevada for the American dream, a good job, health care, pensions, and home ownership. We've helped a number of families achieve that home ownership. I, myself, am a Nevadan by choice, and the environment out there right now isn't fair to those we want to come to the state and work and help build the economic engine. The Culinary Union has had a program since 2007. For down payment assistance for our members, and we've assisted over 1,700 families and members achieve that Nevada dream, but it's becoming much more difficult, and we'd like to partner and be sure that our members can get that dream. So thank you, Madam Chair, for hearing this bill, and we really do hope that the third time's the charm.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Ms. Carlton, for all your expertise over the years. Please go ahead, Ms. Adler.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Joint Committee. I'm Sarah Adler with Silver State Government Relations, and I'm here today on behalf of my client, Vitality Unlimited, a 53-year nonprofit corporation in Nevada. Vitality is pretty well known for its mental health and addiction treatment services, but it also has a portfolio of rural affordable housing, and one of Vitality's goals is to be able to move people from their rental housing into homeownership, because there is a next person who is in recovery or in treatment who needs that affordable unit. So Vitality is strongly in favor of SB 10. I wanted to add to your question, Assemblywoman Dickman, for the first time in Carson City, I'm seeing a development advertised that will be single-family units for rent. And that's the first time I've seen that. There's a lot of condominium and townhome development in Douglas County as well, and I would anticipate that the rental only is going to follow into our suburban, if you will, counties. So referencing Mr. Norman's remarks, I would really hope that the bill stands as it is and an exemption would not be included for townhomes and condos. Thank you very much, all of you, for your time.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lopez, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. My name's Alfonso Lopez, and I'm here in strong support of this bill, but more than likely as a father. I've got daughters that are in their 30s, and they're both paying rent ranging from $2,300 to $2,600 a month right now. They're priced out. So I strongly urge your support, but I also think that what was said earlier, the townhomes and condos should be included in this, because this is where these kids start. They don't start with full family housing. They start with townhomes from the bottom and condos. So please try to keep that included in this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll go down to Las Vegas. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Yes, my name is Ed Yulin, and I'm so happy that for the first time I can come in front of this body and support something that you're doing. It makes me feel so good. The basic reason that 90% of the economic expansion in the United States that's occurred, trillions of dollars, it goes to the wealthiest 10 or 20% of the population, and while 80 to 90% of the people, which includes most of us, receives only 20% of the 10 or 20% of the wealth generation. And the reason for that is because in the United States of America, the corporations control the government. And an example of that is the other piece that you're working on of giving $1.4 billion worth of tax funds to one corporation or a couple corporations in the state is an example of that. Another example is the 6.75% gaming tax that we have in this state. When we pay 8% when we buy something, they pay 6.75%. In Macau, they pay 40%. They fight with each other to get into Macau to pay 40 or 45% taxes. Another is the gift to the resort hotels when they transfer ownership. They don't pay the transfer tax that all of us pay. So congratulations to Nevada, to you guys for finally doing something to control the corporations, because that's the difference. That's the thing that needs to be done here in the United States. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yuling. It's always a pleasure to see you. All right, I don't see anyone else. Oh, maybe one more person at the table in Las Vegas. Please go ahead.
Oh,
yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. For the record, my name is Matilda Miller. That's MATHILDA, Public Affairs Director for Native Voters Alliance Nevada, and we are in strong, unwavering support of this bill. This bill is about pushing back against a rigged system, one where hardworking Nevadans are forced to compete for homes with faceless corporations that treat our neighborhoods like commodities on a trading floor. What this bill says is that enough is enough. If you're a corporate buyer looking to scoop up thousands of homes a year, Nevada is no longer for sale. Some argue that corporate ownership is minimal. If that's the case, then this bill shouldn't bother them unless they're planning to keep buying up our neighborhoods at scale. The truth is, they're not afraid of red tape. They're afraid of losing control over a market that they've been quietly dominating, one family home at a time. And while they dismiss our concerns as a narrative, the reality is this: Nevadans watching rent spikes and being shut out of home ownership aren't living a narrative. They're living the consequences of corporate greed. This bill draws a line in the sand and says Nevada homes should serve people, not portfolios. It reclaims the promise of home ownership for working families, teachers, veterans, and young people who want to put their roots down, not corporations looking to crash out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next at the table.
Hello. Excuse me. Hi, my name is Aaron Harris. I'm here as a volunteer of the Sierra Club Toyabe chapter, and I'm also a member of my HOA covering 1,800 homes, as well as sit on the Henderson Library's Board of Trustees. And these kind of things all sort of come together in this bill. And so first I want to say I do strongly support this bill. We've seen a large transfer of wealth from Nevada homeowners to corporations that are buying up our neighborhoods. This bill has the potential to do more to create more affordable housing by ensuring that single families are the ones that are bidding on our homes and not multinational and major corporations. This has the potential to do more than something, say, opening up our public lands and forcing ourselves to sprawl out in order to make more housing available. This has the potential to open up more housing. As one member pointed out, that as also a first-time home buyer, it's the older housing stock is the ones that are most attainable for first-time home buyers. And so we really want to make sure that those homes are available to those who want to put down roots and who want to be able to have a say in their future. And I can say that the more that we give away our lands to these large corporations, the less we're going to see that people are invested in making sure that Nevada is the best state to live in. I also want to say that this bill is just the first step. Clark County, for example, has very good regulations in terms of Airbnbs. And we need to see it's not just the amount of homes, but it's the concentration of where these homes are being built, right? When we're seeing majority or entire neighborhoods that are all renters, you lose the ability to build that sense of community because one corporation owns all those homes. So it's not a situation where individual people can negotiate with individual people. You're going up against a faceless corporation, which is almost impossible in today's society. So once again, I want to thank the everyone for supporting this bill. And please move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. I see no one else in Las Vegas and no one else in Carson City. We'll go to the phone lines, AVH. And just a reminder to all of those listening, ditto is a great response, especially if somebody before you has outlined things. We need to do some more work on this bill, and the sooner we get done, the quicker we can get the work done. So AVH, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in support of SB 10, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Hello. Am I on?
You are.
Thank you. My name is Janet Carter, and I'm the vice chair of the Toyabe chapter of the Sierra Club. Our organization throughout the state, and especially in Southern Nevada, has been working very hard to fight sprawl in our area. We just recognize that we can't just keep building more and more homes out in our pristine desert and interfering with wildlife and causing more traffic, more air pollution and the like. And therefore, every time we go to fight sprawl, we hear that building these homes is necessary because there's not enough affordable housing. So we want to do everything we can to create more affordable housing, which is desperately needed in the state of Nevada. And we strongly feel that this is not attained by building more homes and sprawling out, but rather by using the available homes within our valley and make sure that they are all affordable to those who wish to have the pleasure of owning their own home. And therefore, we feel that this bill is very important because what it's going to do is allow individuals within our area to get the homes that they want without having to be outbid every single time by very wealthy corporations. And it will create more affordable housing and create a better housing market within our urban areas and thus help decrease the sprawl that is increasingly harming our state's landscape. So it's a win-win as far as we're concerned. And thank you for your support. Thank you to the chair and to the members of the committee for considering this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please, AVH, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Ben Innes. That is BENINESS. I'm the Coalition Manager for the Nevada Housing Justice Alliance. We are a statewide coalition that organizes and advocates with tenants for housing stability throughout our state. I'd like to recognize it's day 7 of the special session, and this body finally found the true emergency, and that is housing. I can't help but wonder, had we gotten here on day 1, we could have saved the cost of the special session and dedicated that to something like rental assistance. In spite of that, thank you, Senator Neal, for your continued efforts, and Senator Hansen for your support as well. In our state's ongoing housing crisis, there is no silver bullet, and we need to consider all solutions that are on the table. That means we can't just wait to slowly build over the long term, but also things like implementing critical tenant protections or finding ways to ensure that homes in Nevada are for Nevadans. As the market continues to be manipulated and distorted and ownership of homes continues to consolidate, this predatory process puts more people at risk of eviction, which is its own problem here in Nevada, and it undermines social stability in communities while creating a class of renters in perpetuity who don't benefit from the stability that comes from home ownership. Instead of housing as something only a few can speculate in and profit from, all Nevadans deserve a fair chance at stable homes, stable families, and stable communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. AVH, next caller, please.
Hello, Chair and members of the Joint Committee on Jobs and Economy. My name is Carissa Pierce, CARISSA PEARCE, and I am calling in on behalf of Children's Advocacy Alliance to respectfully express our strong support for Senate Bill 10. Just to add a few facts really related to children and families, according to a 2023 report by Schoolhouse Connection, approximately 17,000 children in Nevada experienced homelessness. So we see this as a very staggering figure that underscores the urgency of this issue. The Children's Advocacy Alliance recognizes the profound impact of housing instability on Nevada families, particularly for our youngest and most vulnerable residents. Stable housing is foundational to children's health, education, and overall well-being. And for these reasons, we urge your support of Senate Bill 10 to protect Nevada families. And we'd like to express our very sincere gratitude at bringing this initiative forward this special session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Hello, my name is Lisa Lynn Chapman, and I am here representing myself. When I went to purchase my condo townhome, I had to put in over 10 offers for this. I was on an FHA loan, which made it affordable for me to be able to get in. I had about $6,000 as a down payment, and I got in. However, one of the things I'd like everyone to keep in mind is that for people who, like me, were getting into this market, FHA loans have a percentage of a community. There's a threshold that rentals cannot be over in order for them to approve the loan in the condo community. So I really do recommend, like many others, that condos be left out. And one of the things that I did hear Senator Neal, and I want to thank Senator Neal and Hansen for bringing this forward. This is a big thing for me and many others, is that this was put in because credit unions were buying foreclosures of condos and townhomes and then reselling them. Simple solution. You can think about exempting foreclosures and not necessarily exempting an entire swath of housing. So I would like to keep that. And also, I would also like to say that the new construction needs to have no exemptions on that 1,000 units because the attainable housing bill that you all passed this last session has no limits on what corporations can buy. So essentially, if there is not this cap on 1,000 homes to be purchased, if there's a new construction exemption, they can still go ahead and purchase a ton of this attainable housing, which will no longer be attainable.
And I thank you.
Thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please. And for those listening, we are going to please ditto, ditto, ditto. If you have heard somebody say, state your name, state who you're with, and ditto if you can, so that we can hear as many people as we can. Because we only have another maybe, 10 minutes of support, and then we're going to go to opposition. Thank you. AVH, next caller.
Good afternoon. For the record, Matthew Parker, MATTHEWPARKER, speaking in support of SB 10. I would like to stress that the hoarding of our housing supply by corporate investors has had the detrimental effect of driving up rent prices. So it is not just prospective home buyers who will benefit from this measure, but renters as well. This is not a new problem. In fact, going back to the Great Recession, we can see where investors snatched up huge blocks of houses in foreclosure, accelerating this problem. The problem has only gotten worse since. It is past time to address this matter, so I thank this legislature and particularly my Senator Hansen for bringing this measure forward. I also thank Senator Neal for acknowledging that unique gift Senator Hansen has when he is passionate about something to speak at length to the issue without the apparent need of intaking oxygen. I urge this body, and particularly my Assemblymember Dickman, to support this measure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Hector Ariola, and I am the Climate Equity Policy Fellow with the Nevada Environmental Justice Coalition. And we are here in full support of Senate Bill 10, which is fundamentally about protecting the American dream for Nevada's families. This housing crisis calls for urgent action to ensure that Nevada remains an inclusive and sustainable place to live. In 2024, Nevada's homelessness surged by 20% due to the lack of affordable housing. When people lose access to housing, they lose their safety. During times of extreme weather, housing is necessary to protect us from the elements, including the deadly heat of the summer and the unbearable cold of the winter. In Clark County, heat-related deaths skyrocketed by 78% over 2 years, with over 500 lives lost in 2024 alone. These aren't just statistics, these are our neighbors, forced onto the streets by corporate greed. This bill is about the dignity, safety, survival, and giving Nevadans the opportunity for upward mobility. Nevadans' home belongs to Nevadans, not Wall Street, and we urge you to support this bill. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. AVH, next caller, please.
Good afternoon, Chairman Don Darrow and the committee. My name is Edward Goodrich, EDWARD GOODRICH. I represent IATSE Local 363 in Reno, Northern Nevada stagehands, film, and convention technicians. We are strongly in support of SB 10. Affordability is the number one social livability issue our members have, purchase and rental properties included. To paraphrase Adam Smith in The Invisible Hand, this benefits Nevada's society because proper regulation encourages competition among businesses to attract customers and keeps prices in check and encourages innovation and quality. This is proper regulation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. AVH, next caller, please.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tara Webster, TARAWEBSTER. I'm calling on behalf of the Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada. It's a relief for finally addressing housing as the actual emergency facing Nevadans. We could have simply addressed housing issues earlier in the year by passing SB 391 or prioritizing tenant protections like rent stabilization and ending summary evictions. This housing crisis is exasperated by corporate investors who've preyed on Nevadans for too long, and their predatory and incessant price gouging, price fixing, and harassment of tenants and homeowners needs to stop. These corporations are cutting middle-class Nevadans out of the housing market and trapping families with exorbitant rental fees. And with that, we want to see condos and townhomes added to this bill, and we hope to see more tenant protections prioritized in 2027. Finally, I want to say how deeply grateful we are for Senator Neal for bringing another piece of common sense legislation to this wasteful special session, and just tell you that you are a glimmer of light, and thank you for being a true champion for the people.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
There you go.
We hear you.
Hello, this is Dina Titus, DINATITUS. Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the committee, for this opportunity to testify from Washington. This is legislation that will greatly impact my constituents and Nevadans across the state who find themselves in the middle of what can best be called an affordability crisis across all aspects of their daily lives. As you all know, this month, UNLV's lead Center for Real Estate issued a report on the extent of investor-owned housing in Southern Nevada. Among their findings, the statistic that really stands out and should be of concern to everybody is that since the Great Recession, almost 100,000 homes have become investor-owned. That accounts for over 20% of the total homes sold during that same period. Nevada is one of the highest in the West, and it's way above the national average. And of that, only two companies from Wall Street, one based in Texas and one in New York, own a combined total of roughly 7,000 homes. And this is just from publicly available information. No doubt many of these firms have established LLCs to amass their ownership. What our constituents need, as you've heard from all these advocates, are affordability and transparency. At the federal level, I've introduced a bill that aligns closely with the key tenets of the legislation before you today. 1, limiting the ability for corporations to buy housing. 2, providing transparency on who owns housing in an area. And 3, establishing consequences for firms seeking to manipulate local housing markets. As Nevadans continue to weather the mounting affordability crisis, I want to express my support for the objectives of this legislation as it aligns with my ongoing efforts at the federal level. I believe it will not only bring the cost of living down, but will make home ownership more attainable across our state and allow families to start to build wealth. I commend you all for calling this special session to address the housing emergency in Nevada. I want to thank Senators Neal and Hansen for their bipartisan good work. I have submitted a letter with full testimony that you should have before you. I'll end there and yield back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman, for joining us today. Next caller, please, AVH.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 246. Please press star 6 to unmute yourself, and you may begin.
Hola, buenas tardes, presidente y miembros del comité. Mi nombre es Alexis Esparza y soy miembro de SIU 1107 y soy aquí en fuerte apoyo al SB 10. SB 10 es un paso necesario para asegurar que los nevadenses también tengan una oportunidad real de alcanzar el sueño americano, un hogar, estabilidad y un lugar que realmente les pertenezca. Y agradecemos a los patrocinadores por la presentación y por defender lo que es correcto para las familias de Nevada. Les pido apoyar SB 10 porque nuestra gente merece la misma oportunidad de construir una vida aquí en la comunidad que aman. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Hi, my name is Stephen Butler. I'm a member of the Sierra Club Toyabe chapter, and I'm also a student at UNLV. I'll keep this pretty short. Just as I'm coming up here on graduation from grad school, I'm quickly being priced out of the housing market, and it's just becoming unattainable. So I'd like to express my heavy support of this bill. Thank you to those who have already said what has needed to be said. We need to protect Nevadans and protect homeowners in Nevada, individual homeowners, and not corporations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I believe we have like maybe 4 or 5 callers left. If we can go really quick, and if anybody can say ditto, it would be so helpful so that we can go into opposition. Next caller, please.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Quentin Savoie. That's Quentin. Last name Savoie, S like Sam, A like Apple, V like Victor, WOIR. I'm the president of the Las Vegas branch of the NAACP. +1 on the sentiments of our vice president that she's already testified, and adding that true home ownership is the way that we get to true freedom. So we're really grateful for the bipartisan work of this bill to ensure that all Nevadans have an equal shot at the American dream. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Gerald Mays. For the record, that's GERALD MAYES, and I'm the Executive Director of the NAACP Las Vegas Branch 1111, and I'd like to echo the sentiments of our branch president as well as our vice president, and I will submit my full testimony in writing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You get extra points for a ditto. Next caller, please.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Michelle Mayese. For the record, MICHELLE MAESE, President of SIU Local 1107. We represent 20,000 workers in Nevada. We emphatically thank Senator Canizaro, Senator Neal, and Senator Hansen for working together for all of Nevadans. As we know, generational wealth and affordable housing is a priority for Nevadans, and we thank you for understanding it's truly special. As this body knows, SEIU represents healthcare, public sector employees. Southern Nevada Regional Housing Authority is one of our shops that works directly with people trying to find housing. Our members also work with housing when it comes to family services and social services, and there's nothing more devastating than trying to reunite a family and not being able to do so because there's no housing affordability in the state of Nevada. Personally, I have a daughter who might be sitting in the back of that audience right there, and I would love for her to also be a homeowner one day. Lastly, I would like to shout out Assemblywoman Hanson, who spoke about the power in signing a petition, which sparks a movement and starts a conversation. Thank you, Chair, and again, this body, thank you so much. We absolutely support SB 10. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. Ditto's a great response.
Hello?
Thank you.
Hello, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Davis Gallegos, ISA-IAS-GALL-EGOS, and I would like to voice my support for SB 10, the housing capping bill. We are experiencing a rise in homelessness and an affordability crisis, and food, medicine, utilities, and even housing. A bill like this, while it won't solve everything, will be a first step and accountability for corporations in addition to regulation on the rent. But more needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
There are no further callers wishing to provide support testimony at this time.
Thank you very much. We will go to opposition. Is there anyone here in Carson City in opposition of Senate Bill 10? And if there is anyone in Las Vegas, if you will go to the table, we'll move through this rather quickly. And thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to be here today, and thank you, members. For the record, my name is John Sandy, here today before you on behalf of the Nevada State Apartment Association. First, want to say thank you to the senator for working with us last session on the exemptions for multifamily. She was wonderful to work with. However, we do have members that do have some single family that they do rent out to tenants in the state, and so we want to make sure we put just some food for thought as you guys consider this legislation. The first thing is, and I kind of say this every time I testify, but I think it was great working with Assemblywoman Howdigi on issues that increase supply. Housing supply is our problem. I think this bill, while it recognizes that we're trying to do something, really just shifts from one to the other. So a lot of single family that gets purchased by corporations is getting rented out to tenants. So that what this bill from our perspective does is that it kind of takes the incentive to purchase the home rather than have corporations rent it out. So you're limiting the supply of rentals that are going to be available in our state, which will probably have the negative effect of increasing rents. So you're kind of, it's taking from one and giving to the other, and I think it's important that we really focus on solutions that will help us increase our housing supply to really get at the core of the issue. The second thing, food for thought, wanted to raise is the type of people. I mean, obviously there's a lot of corporations that are multinational, large corporations that are buying properties, but I don't know that that's the majority of them. So I just kind of, as like an anecdote, I was at my wife's friend's party a couple months back, and I got to talking to this really interesting guy. He actually started with buying one house. And he saved up the money that he raised from the rent and was able to purchase another and another and another. And he's typical, who he rents to are doctors that come in for short-term stints at the hospital, traveling nurses, and he kind of has built this little niche in Reno. He probably has around 15 or so properties, and he's raising his family on these. He is now going to be competing with all the corporations, the LLCs, that want to get their piece of the 1,000 that they have an opportunity to buy in that 1 year. So I could see a scenario that January 1st, there's going to be a lot of attorneys and title companies that are going to be really, really busy because they're going to want to open their doors at 12:01 to make sure that they can get the allocation of the 1,000 homes that are available for that year. And whether my friend is going to be able to continue to grow his business and continue to support his family is going to be dependent upon whether he's lucky enough to get one of those 1,000 properties a year.
And thank you so much, Mr. Sandy. We're going to move on. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the members of the committee. My name is Maurice Washington. I'm with AFP. I'm the legislative liaison, and we're in opposition to the bill due to the fact that we have to stand on certain principles, and those, of course, are fair and free market. We appreciate Assemblywoman Hanson and Assemblymember Pratchett's questions in regards to these to the free market. We think it's important that we look at the whole picture and its totality, the big will, and this addresses one spoke within that will. So we applaud Senator Hanson and Senator Neal for addressing this issue, dealing with corporations that are buying up homes and sending and renting them. But looking at the entire picture, we want to offer a solution that maybe this committee might consider in an amendment to create a commission to study the relationship between the state and municipalities in regards to zoning issues and regulations, maybe some impact fees, and then maybe take a look at the 84th session, the results of this bill, SB 10, the cause and effects, and maybe review it and maybe make some suggestions in changing that. So we sent an amendment to the staff to have the committee to take a look at in developing this commission and its members and its purpose to report back to the 84th session to make sure that we protect the principle of fair and free markets, so we're not faced with a situation that Mr. Sandy has just mentioned. So we appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For the record, Matthew Taylor with the Nevada Registered Agent Association. We're here testifying in opposition to the bill today. While we believe support the intent, we do not believe the stated goal can be accomplished by this process. We keep hearing that corporations and LLCs are large businesses. However, over 99% of the corporations and LLCs in the United States are classified as small business. The majority of those are single-owner businesses. I've spent the last 27 years of my career helping those small businesses get their start. Large investor pools are rare but noteworthy. As stated, they'll always be able to match their business model to stay within the law. They can go smaller investor pools, they can change structures to meet the law, they can find an exemption, they can buy smaller blocks of homes and spread them over time or location, and separate those from being a controlled group. Probably the majority of corporations and LLCs that we sell are small investors. They don't have the knowledge, the resources, the experience to try and compete in that market. By reducing the amount of businesses or properties that are available to those homes are going to run out realistically by Valentine's Day every year, and those small investors can be left out in cold. Otherwise, it forces those smaller investors to limit their structure planning to trusts, which offer no liability protection, or limit the number of properties they can own before they have to compete against those large property owners. Additionally, the bill seems to address the needs of first-time buyers at the potential expense of first-time or private sellers. By reducing demand, we have the corresponding effect of reducing home values. I know that on my first home, I owned it for 20 years. I poured blood, sweat, tears, and a lot of times I couldn't afford to do anything but cover my mortgage and cover my expenses when I was a young man. When it came time to sell, I needed every bit of that dollar. I couldn't afford a long transaction. I couldn't afford the uncertainty of a less qualified buyer. And I know it would have damaged me and my family if I would have had to try and take a lesser offer because other potential buyers were eliminated from that. People selling their homes are often funding moving up, moving down the housing market, addressing life changes, funding retirements, or paying for extended care. They should have the opportunity to get the best value for the home. Finally, we're concerned that additional reporting that would be a part of this bill, disclosure of shareholders does not currently exist, and the complication of filings for corporations and LLCs to buy properties here in the state of Nevada places us at a competitive disadvantage when comparing to other states like Nevada.
And I thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
next three. You get extra points if you don't go over 2 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. My name is David Goldwater, representing the Nevada Home Builders Association. I'm with Josh Hicks, representing the Nevada Home Builders Association, as well as Tommy Ferraro, who represents the Southern Nevada Home Builders. Our client's mission is to add units to the supply of housing that is, and expand the dream of home ownership to as many Nevadans as possible. We share the policy goals of this mission with Senators Hansen and Neal, as well as Assemblywoman Hansen and Governor Lombardo. And we're reluctantly here in opposition because your rules state that we must. New construction in our industry, we rely on takeout financing. Much of that takeout financing comes from institutions. If you restrict that, then homes don't get built, supply is reduced further, and there are less units on there. That is why a new home exemption is there. We want this bill to work. We want this bill to work as intended. Like most legislation, it's the unintended consequences of legislation that causes problems. We want to make sure that this bill offers clear title insurance to homeowners that protects homeowners so that title insurance policies don't have exclusions. The question, for example, that Assemblywoman Howdigi asked about who determines who's exempt is, I think, a key one to answer, and I don't think you can get there through regs. the recorder's duty to record, for example, an accurate title when they may not have all the accurate information. Those are concerns, a few of the concerns or questions that we'd like to pose. I'm going to hand it to Josh Hicks now, who has some very specific questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, Josh Hicks with McDonald Carano for the Nevada Home Builders Association and the Builders of Northern Nevada. The unintended consequences are the issue here. And this is something we've worked on in various iterations of this bill. And I do want to thank Senator Neal for agreeing to put in the new home issue into this early on and to carry it on to this bill. But as we've been looking at this, we are recommending some amendments that I think could take care of our concerns. We're going to present them to the sponsor and thank her for being willing to consider them. But they all come down to this idea of all the things that happen before a home actually gets built and sold. And this goes to the question of land. Assemblymember Hansen, you'd asked that. Land changes hands. It might go from a developer to a builder. There are financing mechanisms in there. There are land banks. There are sale of works in progress. There are formations of joint ventures. All of these things can result in property being transferred or sold. And if those kind of things are caught up in this bill, would bring the home building industry to a standstill. And that would have the effect on supply that none of us want to see. So our amendments are really aimed at defining some of the key terms in the bill. There are terms in there, and these are in section 2, sub 2, terms like unit of residential real property, newly constructed. Those aren't terms defined in the bill as it stands right now. They're not terms defined in the Nevada revised statutes either. So our amendments are looking to address some of those issues, and we'll be presenting those to the sponsors. We may have some others as well. I would just caution because I know there are conceptual amendments going around. We haven't had the time to fully digest those. We know time is short, and we will work as fast as we can to get our recommended amendments in.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. For the record, Tommy Ferraro on behalf of the Southern Nevada Home Builders Association. We'd like to thank the sponsors and the legislature for focusing on the matter of affordability in a bipartisan fashion. However, to reiterate what Mr. Hicks and Mr. Goldwater's comments, SNHBA has concerns about how this will function, and with limited time to review, until we can assess and analyze all of the amendments, we'd have to remain opposed. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Chair Don Narrowloop, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Nick Schneider, Director of Government Affairs for the Vegas Chamber. For the sake of brevity, I'll go ahead and echo the comments of my colleagues as far as their concerns, particularly in the realm of the impacts to the free market. That being said, we do appreciate the language in Section 2, Sub 2, as well as the questions posed regarding everything from commerce to classification of properties or issues with title insurance. That being said, we haven't had a chance to review the amendment, so at this time we are in opposition. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Chris Anderson on behalf of Tricon Residential. I think as you've heard from a lot of stakeholders today, the housing market is a very complicated place, and it is difficult. As you'd see in the study that I put into the record earlier this year for SB 391, for one, the University of Southern California actually showed that legislating buyers out of the marketplace led to higher prices and higher rents. So this is a really complicated issue. I actually sold a home to a company, and that was my only offer. I wasn't turning down any individuals. I have no doubt that there are other potential sellers kind of in the same position at a time when inventory is growing in Nevada, not shrinking. So there are a lot of homes on the market right now. I guess I would just say that before we take participants out of the marketplace, we should put more time and study into this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Dave Daslich, DAZLICH, here this afternoon to represent the Nevada Housing Alliance, the trade association for the producers of manufactured and mobile housing. Ditto the comments of the Nevada Builders Association. Thank you.
You got like 10 points on that. Okay, anyone else here in Carson City? If not, we'll go to Las Vegas. Please go ahead when you are ready.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. Mackenzie Warren Kay with Brownstein on behalf of AMH and the Amherst Group. I have to acknowledge Senator Neal, respect her. Thank you for responding to my late night text messages. I know we're still working through this. To her point about who's here, who's playing in Nevada, we agree. AMH and Amherst Group, along with others in the industry, before this special was called, commissioned a study. We've heard several statistics being cited in today's hearing alone. We saw that last session. We need to understand the issue, and we're bringing that study in good faith because the work on corporate ownership does not stop today. It doesn't end with Senate Bill 10, and we are here in good faith. To my colleagues' comments about shortage and housing shortage being the issue, that's it. The solution is supply. So to scapegoat this, what we think is a small number of these corporate housing providers that are serving working families. Senate Bill 10 segregates neighborhoods by wealth, and this is not what Nevadans are about. It's not our style. It's not our culture. This blocks generational mobility for working families by reducing their rental options. It diminishes the housing path. This is Majority Leader Howdige's point between apartment living and home ownership. That step in between is renting a single family house. Senate Bill 10 will chill our housing market based on free market principles. We've heard the word a lot that Nevada is special, we're unique. We're a transient state. This lends to a lot of different living arrangements, and renting is attractive for folks here for a number of reasons. Sometimes, sure, this is because we have an affordability problem and someone is renting because they can't afford to buy. But the fact is that renting is that step in the path to home ownership. And the number one reason that folks would leave a rental home is because they're buying a home. And the number one reason they're choosing to rent is because they're seeking a better neighborhood, better schools, parks, more grocery stores. So people that are renting from an AMH or an Amherst Group are because they want that professionally managed living experience. They're looking for something turnkey. They want the better amenities, or perhaps they just don't have a desire to work with a mom and pop landlord where there is less predictability. 4 in 10 Nevadans rent their homes. So saying fewer renters are allowed in the state of Nevada, what we're really saying is that only wealthy people who can afford to buy can live here. So SB 10.
Ms. Warren Kay, I'm sorry to cut you off. Can you wrap up real quick so we can move on to someone else?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will. Just a quick point about apartments. Most apartments are not bigger than 2 bedrooms. If you have a large family, multiple kids and pets, you are going to be living in a single family rental home. So this bill is really hurting the renter. And that's why we oppose. We'll continue to work with the sponsor, and thank you for hearing it today.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate you being here today. Next at the table, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. Tony Castagno, Castagno with AMH, testifying in opposition to Senate Bill 10. AMH is a Las Vegas-based home builder and property management company that started with our first home here 12 years ago. We're proudly run by 550 Nevadans and partner with thousands of Nevada contractors. AMH has successfully utilized the investment made from homes purchased to increase housing supply in the state by building rental homes in southern and northern Nevada. Approximately 50% of the 2,800 homes we own and operate today were built by AMH, and we currently have over 1,000 more homes in development. We believe the best way to solve the housing crisis in Nevada is through free market principles, and the proposals found within SB 10 are contrary to those principles. While AMH has purchased residential real estate and is open to the idea of additional acquisitions in the future, we have purchased 0 Nevada homes since 2023. In fact, AMH has only sold homes from our portfolio in that same time frame. Our mission is to expand housing choices for the roughly 1/3 of Nevadans who are renters, a market average that has remained stable for the past 60 years. A healthy rental market is essential to a healthy housing market overall. We believe that SB 10 would likely worsen Nevada's current housing struggles and urge the committee to vote no on the proposed legislation. Additional comments surrounding constitutional concerns we have are included in a letter that's been submitted to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And is there another person at the table? I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Katrina Ivanov, and I want to say that I love the intent on the bill. If I was a legislator, I would definitely shoot for the same intent. However, if we don't like one thing in the bill, we have to be a no. So that's how I find myself here. And I just want to say I did do all the comments, especially Mr. Goldwater and Mrs. Warren K. And I hope I get a prize. Thank you. Have a lovely
You
day.
did, because I had to deduct after Miss Warren K's grade. So you maybe equaled it out. So thank you very much. With that, I don't see anyone else at the table in Las Vegas. No one here in Carson City. We will go to the phone lines. AVH, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 10, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon, Chair, Committee. While I respect the intention, I'd really like to protect Nevadans for real. They deserve a housing market where families can buy homes, not compete against billion-dollar corporations. SB 10 is a step in the right direction, and I believe many legislators acted with very good intention. But good intentions do not stop sophisticated corporate systems. Across the country, hedge funds and institutional landlords already use shell companies, series LLCs, nominee buyers, trusts and holding companies, developer partnerships, build-to-rent exemptions to bypass exactly these kinds of limits. Nevadans need a law that cannot be defeated by a team of corporate lawyers in a single afternoon. SB 10 establishes a 100-home statewide cap, but without stronger language, corporations will simply split those 100 homes across dozens of independent LLCs, affiliated entities that appear separate, straw purchasers who transfer the ownership later, new construction carve-outs that will allow bulk neighborhoods, internal restructuring that will avoid the disclosure, and we can fix this simply. All we have to do is define affiliated entity by beneficial ownership, not paperwork. Affiliated entity means any LLC, corporation, trust, partnership, series, or subsidiary is which the same individual group of individuals. That prevents the shell LLC game. The next you can do is require a statewide beneficial ownership registry for corporate buyers. Now, this shouldn't be run by the SOS, as he's not a real estate security advisory. So if you require transparency, you will cut those loopholes in half. If you close the under 10 properties loophole, this will stop one corporation from hiding behind many small LLCs.
And sir,
and if
could
you
you
tighten the
please
new
state your
construction exemption, the exemption of new
and could you please state your name for the record? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Matthew Winterhawk, Winterhawk for the record. Sorry about that. So the exemption for new construction applies only to builders selling directly to owner occupants, not institutional investors. So we have to tighten that up. And if you add enforcement teeth, not just the process, any violation constitutes a void transfer and a civil penalty of 3 times the fair market value. When that penalty is higher than the profit, these corporations will behave. Now, I'm not here to tear down the legislators who tried to protect Nevadans. I'm here to finish the job with the safeguards, the corporate lawyers that can't wiggle through this. And our people deserve real ownership, transparency, and stability, not Band-Aid bills that billion-dollar firms can laugh their way
And
through.
I thank
and I
you
appreciate
so
each
much.
and every one of you for bringing this forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next caller, please.
Hi, my name is Michelle Mierzwa, Mierzwa, and I am here today on behalf of Crayon Creditors' Rights Attorneys of Nevada. Our law firm has an office in Nevada and is a member of Crayon. We certainly don't oppose enhancing homeownership by individuals in the state. In fact, our clients as lenders directly facilitate this. However, we believe the legislature needs to think carefully about the scope of this bill and what it prevents. We need to oppose this bill at this time unless it is amended. Although we don't really have the conceptual amendments finalized and we haven't seen them, we do need to add some additional exclusions. It appears that credit unions buying at foreclosures are intended to be excluded in the new amendments. We need to exclude all lenders who are enforcing their contractual rights under home mortgages. The exemption for the foreclosure deed sale transfer needs to be included, and exemption for foreclosing banks from any registration processes need to be implemented. Failure to exempt these entities and processes will chill bidding, limit equity proceeds to foreclosed borrowers, and improperly impair contract rights of foreclosing lenders. Major operational issues with the total 1,000 limit per year for all entity purchasers in the state is a serious problem and will prevent lenders from legitimately foreclosing and taking title on the properties they are entitled to do under existing law. We will propose amendments by CRAN, and we hope that the sponsors will consider the need for clear exemptions, reasonable operational processes to avoid unintended consequences, like situations where the 1,000 maximum sale has been made and a willing seller who wants to maximize their purchase price can no longer sell to an entity for the best price for the benefit of their family. Well,
and I thank you very much. Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits, 757. Please press *6 to unmute yourself, and you may begin. Caller with the last three digits, 757. Please press *6 to unmute yourself, and you may begin.
Good afternoon. This is Bruce Parks, BRUCPARKS. I am chairman of the Washoe County Republican Party. I rise reluctantly in opposition to the bill simply because it does not contain a provision, like Mr. Winterhawk pointed out, to restrict shell LLCs from buying up plot after plot under the auspices of a major corporation. I really appreciate this opportunity to call in my testimony. Would that the Assembly had allowed that. I would also like to point out that we have an entire generation of young people that are being forced out of the housing market. They will never know home ownership, and not just because of the pricing, which largely is a result of corporate greed, in my opinion, but because we have failed them in their education. They'll never be qualified for anything other than entry-level jobs until we link funding with academic achievement and fix the education problem in Nevada. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Good afternoon. This is Adrienne Todman, ADRIANNETODMAN. I'm the former Deputy Secretary of HUD and a 30-year veteran in providing affordable housing. I'm speaking today as the new CEO of the National Rental Home Council, which advocates on behalf of professional housing providers across the country and in the state of Nevada. I'd first like to applaud the desire to address affordability in a bipartisan fashion. But sadly, today I must stand in opposition with the speed and direction of the legislation put forth today. I know what creates housing that is affordable, and I know why homeownership is out of reach. This bill does not address the root causes of high costs and will likely have serious unintended consequences. While I stand in opposition to the bill, I stand in support of a collaborative effort to address housing costs, such as building new housing for renters and homeowners. Nevada's population grew by more than 400,000 in the past decade, but only 100,000 homes have been built. This is the main reason housing is not affordable. We also need to assist families who want to own by helping them with down payment assistance and helping them improve their credit readiness. The families in Nevada who want to rent a single-family home should have an opportunity to do that. I am deeply concerned for them right now, as they may be victims of unintended consequences. Are we saying that if a family wants to rent a 3 or 4 or 5 bedroom house, that they will be discriminated against? And are they not deserving of recipients of the public interest? I would also like to add that there's serious legal issues with this bill that require review, as evidenced by the multiple carve-outs that have been created. The housing owners targeted today were there for Nevada in 2008 when the housing market crashed, and today own less than 20% of housing across the state. Their provision of rental housing is not causing the homeownership crisis. Also, as someone who has run large, complex government agencies, it appears the process to be in compliance is very confusing and difficult to follow. I strongly suggest that this body takes the time to get fixing affordability in Nevada correct. Creating a pro-housing plan is bipartisan work. So let's create a plan that does work and does not raise more questions about how we are truly helping future homeowners without hurting renters. Thank you very much.
Next caller, please. Next caller, please.
It appears this caller is having difficulty unmuting themselves. Would you like to move on?
Please.
There are no further callers wishing to provide opposition testimony at this time.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, we will go to neutral. Is there anyone here in Carson City in neutral on Senate Bill 10? Welcome, Mr. Acroth. Please go ahead when you are ready.
Good afternoon, committee members, Chair. Steve Acroth, Administrator of the Nevada Housing Division, for the record. Coming forward to you in neutral. Effectively, we were name-checked by Senator Hansen, so just wanted to put on the record how the division does need to be involved in the regulatory process with the Secretary of State. And then we just offer our expertise to effectuate the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being here with us today. All right, I'll go down to Las Vegas. Neutral, please go ahead when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Dundara-Loop and members of the Joint Committee. For the record, I'm Erin Houston, Deputy Secretary of State for Securities, here today on behalf of Secretary of State Francisco Aguilar. Secretary Aguilar appreciates the opportunity to collaborate and is prepared to implement the legislation if passed with appropriate fiscal support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I think, yeah, go ahead, Mr. Finseth.
Madam Chair, Rocky Finseth, ROCKY-FINSETH, here on behalf of the Nevada Land Title Association. Madam Chair, Ms. Sylvia Smith was on the phone line in an opposition position. She said she wasn't called upon. Just want to register their concerns. Assemblywoman Jauregui largely echoed the title insurance concerns with the current structure of the statute.
Thank you very much, Mr. Finseth, and please tell the caller that we tried to connect, but that it didn't seem to unmute. So thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Any additional neutral? Not seeing any. Do you have any closing comments? Senator Neal, hang on just a minute. I think I forgot to go to phone line neutral.
Did you?
Yeah, just sit right there for a minute. AVH, do we have anybody in neutral on the phone?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to provide neutral testimony for SB 10, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Drew McPherson. That's DRUMCPHERSON. I'm the Story County Recorder speaking today in my capacity as president of the Recorders Association of Nevada. Recorders across the state recognize the housing concerns shared today in today's hearing and appreciate the collaboration of both sides of the aisle to do this meaningful work for our residents. The association is testifying in neutral on SB 10 pending our ability to review the amendment in full and gain a clearer understanding of any revisions to the recorder's role and responsibilities under the proposed changes. We appreciate the opportunity to work together to see how this goes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Hello, Senator Lupin Committee. This is Sylvia, Sylvia Smith, SMITH, TURK, with the Nevada Land Title Association. Rocky had called in. I just wanted to go on record with our point. Obviously, our industry is very, very concerned about home ownership, and we are 100% behind that. However, we would like to work with the committee regarding Section 2.5, the proposed amendment. Because I missed being able to speak earlier, please tell me if you want me to express the concern or just leave it at that.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience as we work through the technology. With that, are there any other callers in neutral?
There are no further callers wishing to provide neutral testimony at this time.
Thank you very much. Now we get to close. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. Senator Neal, please go ahead with your closing comments.
It's fine. Senator Neal, for the record, I want to thank my colleagues, number one, for signing the petition. I know that some of the light is being shined on Senator Hansen and myself and Assemblywoman Hansen, but I feel the light should be reflected back for your courage, intelligence, and cleverness to do this. And that's all I wanted to say is that but for you, this would not be.
Ira Hansen, the record, just thank you for a very fair hearing.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, I will close the hearing. And today, because Senate Bill 10 is in the Senate and not in the Assembly, we will take a quick recess. And the Assembly members, you may stay if you want, or you may leave, but just the Senate members will be voting on this bill because it's only in the Senate. So if we will take a quick recess, and then we will go back in and the senators will vote. Thank you. Okay, if we can come back into order and quickly do what we need to do so we can get on with the day. Senators, we will begin our work session on Senate Bill 10. We just got done hearing this bill, so unless there are some real burning questions, I will accept a motion to do pass Senate Bill 10 as the amendments will be presented on the floor.
So moved, Madam Chair. Understanding that amendments will be presented to the full Senate, I will make a motion to do pass out of committee today.
Thank you very much, Senator Cannizzaro, with a second from Senator Wynn. Are there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move to our very last item on the agenda, which is public comment. For those of you wishing to call in public comment, dial 888-475-4499. The meeting ID is 849-0246-0933, and then press pound. And when prompted for the participant ID, please press pound again. All right, we will start here in Carson City.
Was Rosario, Deputy State Director with American for Prosperity. We want to take the time to thank Senator Hansen and Assemblywoman Alexis Hansen for really carrying the spirit of transparency. We had got calls this morning regarding conflict of interest, and we really appreciate for them to come forward voluntarily and share that. And we really appreciate Chair Senator Dondera-Lou for another great committee that was ran. We thought it reflected the spirit of Nevada, and it's making sure every voice was heard. So want to put on the record, and we greatly appreciate everybody's effort here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in Carson City for public comment? All right, we will go to Las Vegas. Please go ahead. Public comment. Remember, public comment is anything that is not the bill.
Hi, it's Katrina Ivanov, and I just wanted to say for all the sponsors of that bill, I really appreciate the intent of the bill. I also want to Dido, Mr. Uizwajar before me. Transparency is a really good thing. I strive for that, and I hope that all you do. And I also wanted to say that in this session is a little bit disappointing that the Assembly is not allowing people to talk on the phone. I'm speaking on behalf of many people that asked me to say that on the record. And this particular session, you can listen on the phone, but the Assembly sessions in the committees, you cannot listen on the phone. And also, before on the regular session, we were allowed to put in the Nelly's yes, no, neutral, and there was a chart with like a pie looking thing, seeing how many people are in support or opposition of a certain bill. And I couldn't find that on Nelly's anywhere this time. And I consider myself very familiar with Nelly's because I testified on a number over 100 bills the last time. So if I'm missing it, please let me know where I can find it. And if not, can you please bring it back?
Thank you very much. And if you will make sure that you are logged in to Nellis. It may be that you need to create an account, but if you are logged into Nellis, you will be able to see those items that you're referring to. And if you have any questions, I believe there is a line that you can call to get some help. But thank you very much for being here today. We appreciate your participation.
Thank you. And I like this meeting way better than the last one. So thank you how you conducted it. It was really good today.
I appreciate it.
And I will call the number.
Thank you very much. All right. With that, we'll go to the phone lines for public comment. ABH, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. There are no callers to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you very much. All right. Well, with that, we will, that completes our agenda today. And so thanks to everybody for being here. This meeting is adjourned.